Chapter 51. After settling Mo Sha's issue, Sima Yu was in a good mood. Little spirit, I remember you telling me before that you had a master who was an alchemist, right? Sima Yu hugged Little Spirit as she asked, That's right, a very long time ago. Why? Little Spirit asked, I want to learn how to refine pills. Do you know where the books on pill refining are? Sima Yu asked, You want to learn how to refine pills? Then would I have many pills to eat in the future? The moment Little Spirit heard what Sima Yu said, its eyes started to shine. Do you really like to eat pills? Sima Yu asked, I do. Little Spirit nodded his head, saying, I've already eaten all the pills that my previous master had left for me. That's why there are no pills inside the spirit pearl. Sima Yu had her suspicions long ago. Since there was an owner who used to be an alchemist, it was strange that the spirit pearl didn't even have a single pill. So it was this guy who that had eaten them all. Master, it'll take you to go look for the books, Little Spirit said as he pulled Sima Yu and they disappeared. In the blink of an eye, they appeared inside a house. Master, all the books in here about books on pill refinement. This is the collection that belongs to the previous master. I've heard him say before that there are many books that belong to the ancient times. There are also many methods of pill refinement that have gone extinct. Little Spirit said as it pointed towards the house full of books. Sima Yu took a look at the books inside the room. There were piles of it that filled a room. No need to mention 10,000. There were hundreds and thousands of them. There are so many books. Do you know which ones are for beginners? Sima Yu asked. Little Spirit shook his head. He had never read these books before. How would he know? Oh, right. Little Spirit thought of something and suddenly disappeared from within the house. When he had reappeared, his was holding on to a pill furnace. Master, this is the pill furnace that the previous master left behind after reading these books. You can use this pill furnace. If you need any pill ingredients, you can find them everywhere in the ground outside. The previous master had gathered so many different kinds and I've preserved them all. It was the first time that Little Spirit had been so warm towards her. Sima Yu's mouth pulled into a smile. This guy appeared to love anything related to pills. After taking a look at the bookshelves which filled the whole house, she decided to first look for the books that catered to the beginner before doing anything else. So she spent the remaining time to look over the books in the house once over, taking out all the books that were suitable for a beginner. After that, she took them to the table and began to read earnestly. Actually, the method of pill refining was actually not difficult. It was basically divided into 3 steps: purifying, fusing, and binding. However, these 3 steps stumped thousands upon thousands of spirit masters. Purifying. This was done by purifying the essence of the pill ingredients. One needed attentiveness and patience in order to do this. Fusing sounded easy. It was done by fusing the purified essences of the pills together. This step may seem easy, however. Each pill had its own fusion sequence. One had to pay particular attention to what ingredient went in at what time. It was not like you could just pour all the ingredients together. Furthermore, if one could not master it well, there was a chance that it might even explode. Besides wasting pill ingredients, it was also dangerous for the alchemist. The 3rd step was the most important step of all, binding. If the previous 2 steps were successful but the binding stage was not, the final product would only be medicine. At best, although medicine had its uses, when compared to a pill, the difference was like 100,000 times. Furthermore, binding required one to wait until all the essences had pretty much fused together before pouring one's spirit energy into the pill furnace. Turning the medicine into a pill, this step really tested a person's mental strength. If one did not control it well, all the efforts that had been put in earlier would be completely wasted. As a result, although pill refinement looked easy, those who could really become alchemists were few and far between, not to mention the fact that pill refinement still needed 2 very important elements: pill furnace and fire. The pill furnace was easy to explain. It was obvious that a better pill furnace would have an increased rate of success. With regards to fire, there were many different types: firewood flame, spirit beast life flame, deviant flame, spirit flame. The first one was self-explanatory. The second spirit beast life flame was done by asking a spirit beast to provide aid while one was refining pills. Because of their contract, their master could very quickly order the spirit beast to control the intensity of the flame. If it was their own spirit beast, the master could directly control the spirit beast life flame. This was the fire that the majority of alchemists used. However, the problem with using these flames were that their quality was not high. Also, they required contractual spirit beasts in order to work. The 3rd type of fire was deviant flame. This kind of flames was generated between heaven and earth. It had a spiritual nature. If one could control it, the successive pill refinement would exponentially increase. However, controlling this kind of deviant flame was really difficult because one had to absorb the deviant flame into their body before pouring it into the pill furnace. If one was not cautious and was devoured by the deviant flame, he would be burnt to death. For the fourth kind of flame, not much was written about it. It could possibly be because this kind of flame was simply too mysterious. When Sima Yu had finished reading the pill refinement procedures, she realized that it was something that really required endurance. Although she lacked money and men in this current life, what she did not lack was patience, and so she began to practice the first step of pill refinement. Purifying, she followed the methods written in the books with utmost precision. After that, she eagerly ran towards the medicine field to look for a few pill ingredients. When she came to the pill room, she took the pill furnace that little spirit had found for her earlier and began her closed-door training. After 2 days, aside from coming outside to obtain some pill ingredients, Sima Yu remained inside the alchemy room. For a period of time, the sounds ping 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 sounded non-stop. The spirit beasts inside the spirit pearl all ran over and waited outside the alchemy room. Will Master be able to refine any pills? Yaguang asked as he looked towards the pill room. Of course. Little Roar, who rolling around on Yaguang's back, affirmed when he heard Yaguang's question. Little Yu is so smart. She'll definitely be able to refine them successfully. Ling Long's body floated in midair. She had one leg crossed over the other with both hands behind her head, looking as if she was sleeping on top of a bed. She definitely has to succeed. Then I will be able to have many candy drops to eat. Little Spirit said, candy drops? I'm talking about pills. I used to call them candy drops, Little Spirit said. Boom. During the pause in the conversation between Little Spirit and the rest, the sound of an explosion sounded from inside the pill room. The shock sent them scurrying inside for a look. Are you okay? Little Roar was the first one to enter. He saw the room full of smoke with Sima Yu's silhouette faintly discernible in the center of it. Master, what happened? Yaguang and the rest rushed inside and asked when they saw what remained of the door. The smoke in the house gradually dispersed, leaving the room in the mess. Not just the table, but also the floor and even the walls had been scattered with remainders of the pill ingredients. As a result of the explosion, Sima Yu stood in the center of the house. When it had exploded, she managed to protect her face, but her hair had turned into an afro because of the explosion. Her clothes had also been shredded. Wawawa, I'm so sad. Little Spirit saw the state of the house and cried out loudly. What's wrong, Little Spirit? The other could not understand what was wrong with Little Spirit. Other people would only cause an explosion during the fusion process, but Master was just purifying the pills when it exploded. This shows that she can't refine pills at all. I have no more candy drops to eat anymore. Sob, I'm so depressed. Little Spirit cried. Little Roar and the rest looked at the charred Sima Yu. She really couldn't become an alchemist? Chapter 52. Sima Yu was still figuring out how did the explosion of the furnace occur, and she totally ignored Little Roar and company who had burst into the room. After she heard Little Spirit wallowing in pity, she glared at him and asked, who said that this explosion occurred at the purifying stage? Little Spirit understood her meaning immediately, and in a flash, he appeared beside her. His eyes were excited and sparkling when he looked at her and asked, if it didn't explode at the purifying stage, you mean to say that it was at the fusion stage? Yeah. She touched her own face, but this had actually made the only clean spot on her black now. How could it be? You've only just started pill refining just a few days back. How could you possibly advance to the next stage so quickly? Little Spirit continued on, I remembered my alchemist master once said that the average person takes 1 month to get the bare basics of purifying. Being able to be an apprentice is already a blessing on its own. It also took 20 over talents to finally advance to the stage after they had practiced non-stop. You took such a short time, how could you others take such a long time? Sima Yu was shocked when she heard Little Spirit's explanation. How could they take such a long time? It's so easy, I took only 2 days, 2 days. All the spirit beasts in the room all cried out in shock. She took only 2 days while the average person took a month. This difference was too heaven-defying, and everyone looked at her as if she were a monster. Yeah, after I came in, I took 2 days to extract the essence, and I spent the remaining days practicing it over and over as a revision. Afterwards, I studied the pill recipes and realized that I just had the ingredients for a certain pill and decided to try my hand at it. It was fine in the beginning, however, when I tried to mix the 2 essences together, it suddenly exploded. At this point of time, Little Spirit was too excited to speak and was trembling and holding tightly onto Sima Yu's shoulder. Only after a long while did he speak. Initially, I thought that you were a complete waste in alchemy, huh? It turns out that you are a genius. No. A devil more like it. Ha 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 ha. Yay. I finally have candy drops to eat. This is really great. Sima Yu was speechless. How did this guy give her the feeling that she was a candy dispenser? Alright, I'm going to head off to shower first. I will come back later to clean up and analyze the reason for the explosion. She said, there's no need, no need. Little Spirit broke out into a smile as he spoke to her in a flattering tone. You just go and take a good bath and analyze what went wrong. Leave the cleaning up to me. Since someone had offered to help, she was definitely more than willing to take up on the offer. Little Spirit went off to prepare the bath for her and she happily went to take a bath. In the end, where did I go wrong? In the wooden bathtub, she was leaning her head against the edge of the tub and staring at the ceiling as she retraced the steps she did during the refinement process in her mind. Her steps were definitely right. The order in which she added the essences in were also correct. These 2 points, she was very sure, so it meant that the problem did not lie in these 2 places. If that's the case, it should have been the purity of the essences and the temperature control. She murmured to herself, it seems that I need to practice more on the purifying and my flame control. After the bath, Sima Yu went to the alchemy room and saw that it had been cleaned up nicely. She couldn't help but praise Little Spirit's actions and devotion. But she also forgot that in here, it was the Spirit Pearl and all Little Spirit needed to do was to just use a single thought to have the room back to what it was before. This time round, she did not start refining immediately but instead went to pick up a book on alchemy and started to make references to what she did previously, and only after ensuring that there was no mistakes in the steps and tweaking some parts did she try her hand again and started extracting the essences from the herbs. After she had calmed her heart and concentrated on extracting all the various essences, she found that there was a huge improvement in the purity of the extracted essences. Master, there's movement outside. Little Spirit suddenly appeared beside Sima Yu and informed her, is grandfather out of his closed-door cultivation? She asked, to prevent any accidents. During this time she was practicing her alchemy, she had Little Spirit keep track of the outside. It should be, I feel that there's a fluctuation on the spirit energies outside. It feels like someone has just advanced in rank. Once she heard that, Sima Yu immediately put everything down and with a thought, she was back in her room. When she opened the door, she saw her 2 maids guarding her door. Why are 2 of you here? Back to young master, we have waited many days and you did not come out. Hence, we thought that you may be cultivating inside, so we've been guarding the door, lest someone disturbs you. Sima Yu did not think that they were so diligent and smiled warmly. Thank you. I'm out now, so go on and rest. She proceeded on and headed over to her grandfather's study and found the entrance to the tunnel and groped her way down to the hidden room. Once she was outside the hidden room, she stood outside, waiting for her grandfather. Ever since she had undergone that baptism with crimson flames fire, her perception to the spirit fluctuations in the air was overly sensitive. Other people might not have sensed the changes in the spirit fluctuations, but she was able to determine the increase in fire spiritual chi in the hidden room. After half an hour passed, Sima Yu felt the fire spiritual chi began to stabilize and knew that the advancement was over. Sure enough, the doors to the hidden room opened and Sima Lai stepped out. Grandfather. Sima Yu went up to him and smiled. Congratulations on advancing a rank. Ha ha. This was possible all thanks to the 2 advancement pills you gave me. Sima Lai was surprised that Sima Yu was outside waiting for him and he froze a moment before he laughed out heartily. How did you know that I was coming out? I could sense the spiritual chi fluctuations in the air and guessed that grandfather had successfully advanced, so I came to welcome you, she said as she smiled sweetly, beaming with pride. You can actually sense the spiritual chi fluctuations from my rank advancement? He was very surprised when he heard that. If it was someone else who had sensed it, he wouldn't be able to hide his own rank. Grandfather, you can rest assured that other people would not be able to sense it, she reassured him. Before I came in, I had Little Roar surround whole area with a barrier so no one would be able to sense it. Little Roar? That's me, grandfather. Little Roar flew in and strutted in front of Sima Lai as if boasting on his own appearance. Sima Lai was inwardly shocked when heard that. What kind of spirit beast was this? Not only could it talk, it could even set up barriers? Before, when he saw Sima Yu carry it, he thought that it was a spirit beast that she had purchased from outside to keep as a mere pet. Although Little Roar has no fighting abilities, he's top-notch when it comes to setting up barriers. Sima Yu continued introducing Little Roar to her grandfather. So you can rest assured, grandfather, she had ensured that Little Roar set up a barrier so that no one could detect the spiritual chi fluctuations. She had thought it through in her previous life. She had climbed so high with her own powers, and yet that had brought about the jealousy of others. If she had remained low-key, then she wouldn't have gained the jealousy of the second in charge and even died from that. All right. Let's go out and show my brothers your achievement. When they know that you have advanced in rank, they will be so happy. Sima Yu grabbed his arms and let him out cheerfully. However, back in the Imperial Academy's office, despite Little Roar's barrier, a silhouette was sitting by the window and looked in the direction of the general's residence and faintly said, "Was this the thing you said that you had to settle? Since the matter is already resolved, when will you come back?" Chapter 53. Aside from Sima Yu Ran, who had to settle some matters in the academy, Sima Yu Qi, Sima Yu Ming and Sima Yu Lu had all came back, knowing that Sima Yu Lai had successfully advanced in rank. Everyone was exceedingly excited. At night, Sima Yu cooked an entire table of dishes for everyone in a moment of happiness. When she stepped out of the kitchen, she saw the four of them sitting at the sides of the table, all of them staring at her with faces full of surprise. She stared back blankly, because she realized that she, in her extreme happiness, forgot that the original owner of this body did not know how to cook. The previous time where she said that she had taught the chefs how to cook, they had thought that she had just listened to some rumors. However, this time she was the one who had made these dishes by hand. "Fifth brother, when did you learn how to cook?" Sima Yu Lu was the first one to ask. Sima Yu went to her own seat and sat down, saying, "Wasn't I living on Pu Luo mountain range for a few months? At that time I was the only one who could cook for myself, so I had to learn it." Listening to what Sima Yu said, everyone looked at her with pain in their hearts, thinking that she must definitely have suffered so much on Pu Luo mountain range. So much so that she even had to learn something as complex as cooking. Sima Yu felt a bit guilty when she looked at the expression on everyone's faces. She had just wanted to dodge the question of her learning cooking. She never expected that she would cause heartache. She smiled and said, "All right, let's quickly eat. If we wait any longer it will get cold and it won't be delicious anymore. Yes, let's eat. Let's see how Fifth brother's dishes are. Mum, let's eat. Come, let's give a toast to grandfather," congratulating him on advancing a rank smoothly. "Haha, for this, we have to give thanks to you for bringing back that advancement pill." Talking about Sima Lai's advancement, everyone's spirits were lifted once again as they ate and drank until late at night. "Grandfather, I think I will return to the academy tomorrow," Sima Yu said after dinner ended. "It's good for to be the one to decide how to settle your own problems." Sima Lai patted Sima Yu's head. "You're going to academy in order to find the ones who hurt you that day and to exact revenge?" Sima Yu nodded, saying, "I'm not the kind of person who asks you whether or not your hands hurts after you've given me a slap. If you want to hurt me, you better prepare to figure out how to receive my revenge. Haha, no matter what you decide to do, grandfather will definitely support you. If you need anything from me or from your brothers, all you need to do is to ask." Sima Lai said, "Yup, I will." Sima Yu smiled as she said. She looked towards the direction of the academy as her mouth twisted into a malicious smile. Who knew what kind of reaction those people who had thought she already died would have once they saw her returning back to her own courtyard. Sima Yu locked herself back inside her house once again to cultivate. Although she really wanted to go and practice refining pills, she also knew that one should not try to run before they learned how to walk. She knew that she did not have enough experience extracting the essences from the herbs yet. So if she hastily tried to fuse them together, she would only end up causing another explosion like the previous time. Even if she had somehow managed to successfully refine out medicinal pills, its quality would also not be that good. Furthermore, what she needed the most right now was to cultivate. Little Roar said that before she reached divine rank, there was a chance that she would be able to recover her memories. She was currently only a mere spirit lord. Who knew how long it would take before she finally reached divine rank? She needed to make full use of every second inside the Imperial Academy. For the first month that Sima Yu had gone missing, everyone was still heavily gossiping about it. They were guessing when the general's residents would come to the academy to make trouble. Who would have thought that not even a single shadow was sent from the general's residence? After more than a month had passed, everyone had lost interest in gossiping about it, and very few people even remembered that waste. Today, after they had finished their morning classes, everyone was walking around after their lunch. The two people, Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi, had come back. Seeing that the main gate was unlocked, they still thought that Ouyang Fei or Bei Gongtang had returned first. These two guys, they ran off right after class. We didn't even see them at the canteen just now, so it turns out they had rushed back here first. Fatty Chu said, "Yup, ever since we ate the food that you cooked for us, the food at the canteen seems too disgusting to eat." Wei Ziqi's face fell as he talked about Sima Yu. Fatty Chu's voice was also a bit hoarse. The only ones in academy who would still talk about Sima Yu would only be these two people. "What are you guys doing, standing at the door?" Bei Gongtang's cold voice came from behind them, interrupting them in the midst of their pain. Wei Ziqi turned around and looked at Bei Gongtang, saying, "Didn't you go in? We thought that you had already come back." "Nope. I went to the library." Bei Gongtang stepped forward 2 steps and looked at the two of them suspiciously. After that, she pushed the door open to enter. "When will this Bei Gongtang ever smile? Whenever we see her, she's always so cold," Fatty Chu said agitatedly. "Yup, her smile will definitely be beautiful," Wei Ziqi said. "Are you trying to be gatekeepers by standing at the door?" Ouyang Fei came from behind and said, when he saw the two of them standing at the door without entering, after living together for a period of time, although they did not like to talk to each other. But they had already grown less cold as compared to the time when they had just gotten to know each other. Sigh, this guy. He's really Fatty Chu was talking halfway when he suddenly turned to look at Wei Zqi and saw that his eyes, similarly, contained traces of surprise. The two of them had just returned and thought that the main door had been opened by Bei Gongtang or Ouyang Fei. However, they realized now that these two had only returned after them. This must mean that the one who was able to use a key to open the door, it must be Sima Yu. This must mean that he has returned. The two of them quickly entered the house. The moment they entered, they saw Ouyang Fei standing at the house while Bei Gongtang was standing in front of Sima Yu's door. The door that had always been tightly shut was actually open today. They only saw Sima Yu stick out her head from inside the house, smirking towards the 4 surprised people. "You've all come back. I'm just tidying the house. It's been so long since someone has lived here, so the dust is really thick." Fatty Chu pointed at Sima Yu and found that he could not speak in proper sentences. "When did you return?" Sima Yu completely walked out and laughed. "I just returned." Fatty Chu, "You don't have any afternoon classes, right? Want to help me pack my place up?" After that, she looked at the 3 people, including Bei Gongtang, and said, "This place is really too dirty. It also seems to have been smashed by someone. It's so messy. Why don't you all wait until it's been packed up before coming over again to sit down?" It was only at this point that they 4 of them had any real reaction. Wei Ziqi rolled up his sleeves and walked over saying, "It really is very dirty. Let us clean it up together. Right? It'll help out too," Fatty Chu said as he walked over. Sima Yu looked at Wei Ziqi take initiative to help and smiled. "All right, having you guys to help will let us pack it up quicker." But what was even more strange was that Ouyang Fei and Bei Gongtang had also come in to help, although the two of them still looked really cold. She had always taken the two of them to be inflicted with some kind of facial nerve paralysis. She was still surprised that they had came forward to help them out. "It really seems as if someone had broken in here," Fatty Chu said helplessly as he threw his glance towards the mess. The 5 of them packed up together and the place was quickly tidied up. After that, Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi sat together while Ouyang Fei leaned on the table and Bei Gongtang was near the door. 4 of them simultaneously looked towards Sima Yu. "Yu, where did the teleportation array send you that time?" Chapter 54. Sima Yu gave a toast to everyone before sitting down on her own seat, saying, "I was teleported to a faraway place, encountered some situations, got held up over there, and finally found a teleportation array and teleported back only recently." "How did you end up entering that 4th teleportation array?" Bei Gongtang opened her mouth, grasping the crux of the situation immediately. Sima Yu smiled, raising her tea to drink another mouthful, saying, "Because someone pushed me in, you're saying that someone schemed against you?" Fatty Chu jumped up immediately and cried out, "Who is it? Well, go look for that person." Wei Ziqi pulled Fatty Chu back onto his seat and said, "Why are you so agitated?" First listen to what Yu has to say, Meng Ting. Yang Fei looked towards Sima Yu. Meng Ting was the only one who had any form of enmity towards her in this period of time. It was not strange for everyone to put the blame on her. Sima Yu shook her head and said, not her, not her? Then who else wishes to harm you? Fatty Chu said, I've also heard some people say that people who entered in the past rarely survive to come out. Thinking back on how she had seen all those skeletons back in the illusion array, it truly was a place of no return. Furthermore, if they had, like her, been sent to Luo mountain range, chances of survival would drop even further. Yup, the number of people who wish to harm me are not few, Sima Yu said, but the one who I believe pushed me inside is not the main schemer. The person is just a henchman. The one I wish to find is the one who hides behind that person. The one who hides behind? Wei Ziqi and Fatty Chu looked at Sima Yu. When that time comes, it's possible that I'll need your help, Sima Yu said. All right, Bei Gongtang sounded in reply before turning to leave. Yang Fei also nodded before he left. Sima Yu saw the two of them leave before sighing. These two are still as cold as before. They've already gotten a lot better. At the very least, they helped you to clean up this place and were concerned about what happened to you. If this was in the past, I'm afraid these two would have directly returned back to their houses, not even caring about what happened. Wei Ziqi said, yup, I also did not expect the two of them to stay behind to help me tidy up this place. Sima Yu said, however, how would my place become like this? It looked like it had been completely thrashed. It truly is strange, Fatty Chu said. When something had happened to you, none of us had entered your room, so we did not realize that your place had become like this. Did you lose anything? I lost a few ornaments, Sima Yu said. Then it must be that someone had broken in when we went to class. Wei Ziqi said, yup, the things that were lost were not particularly expensive or precious. Sima Yu said, Yu, now that you're back, you definitely would shock the one who had harmed you that time. Fatty Chu rubbed his hands together in glee, ready for action. Thinking of what would happen when Sima Yu was seen by people, his face revealed an exceedingly excited expression. Yup, I also want to see what kind of expression those people would have. Sima Yu smiled. Right, does Master Feng know that you've returned? Wei Ziqi asked. He doesn't know that I've returned to the school compound. Sima Yu thought of Feng Zhixing and pursed her lips. Grandfather had told her that in this period of time he had been very concerned about her. Even though his actions were a bit strange in the past, thinking about it now, he must not have had any evil intentions. I will go look for him at the office later. All right, then you should go and rest first. Well, go back first. Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi both stood up to leave. Little Roar, who had been silently lying down on the table, finally opened his eyes, looked at Sima Yu and said, the four of them were really concerned about you. How do you know? Little Roar stretched lazily and said, who am I? I am Divine Roar, an ancient sacred beast. I am especially sensitive towards people's emotions. Sima Yu smiled. She had also felt it. This time, their gazes revealed astonishment and joy. Their very first reaction was from the heart. Even Bei Gongtang's eyes momentarily flashed with joy. Let's go up and rest, then go look for Master Feng later. After she said this, she picked up Little Roar from the desk and headed upstairs. There were no afternoon classes, so Fatty Chu and the rest were all cultivating inside their own rooms. Sima Yu, you went to Feng Zhixing's office alone? Knock knock. Feng Zhixing was currently meditating. Hearing the knock on the door, both his eyes opened as he said unhurriedly, enter. Sima Yu pushed open the door and bowed to Feng Zhixing, saying, Master Feng, I have come to report. You're ready to return to classes? Feng Zhixing looked at Sima Yu as he smiled and indicated for her to sit at a chair on the side. That's right, I've already settled my business at home and so I have come back to class. Sima Yu looked at the chair but still chose to continue standing. When she faced Feng Zhixing, she always had some insurmountable feeling. She knew that this person in front of her was definitely extremely strong. The stronger she grew, stronger she felt he was. Good, then you may begin attending classes tomorrow. Feng Zhixing nodded without saying anything else. If there's nothing else, I will take my leave first. Sima Yu said, wait. Feng Zhixing called for her to stop. The principal knows that you've returned and feels a bit curious about where the teleportation array has sent you. He wishes for you to pay him a visit once you've returned. Follow me. After Feng Zhixing said this, he brought Sima Yu to the principal's office. This was the first time that Sima Yu had met the principal. Sima Lai had told her before that he was good friends with the principal and that if she had any problems she could always go and look for her, so she had the impression that the principal must have been someone similar to Sima Lai. However, The moment she saw him, she realized that this principal was completely different from her own grandfather. Sima Lai gave off some kind of soldier's aura, imperceptibly giving others a kind of pressure, while this principal gave others a very easygoing feel, as if he had no constrictions. The principal looked at Sima Yu and was not surprised. He just peacefully asked her some questions regarding what happened to her during the period of time where she had gone missing. Sima Yu merely answered simply that she had been sent to Pu Luo mountain range, that it was merely on the fringes, and that she had been rescued by a group of people when she was in danger, then finally followed them to wander around the place for a few months. Feng Zhixing and the principal did not call her any of her words into question, although they also did not fully believe it. They just wanted to see that she had safely returned. Leaving the principal's office, Sima Yu still thought of how when she was leaving, she saw Feng Zhixing patting her head. It felt as if he was patting the head of his junior. Because she was too lost in thought, she had not paid attention to what was in front of her, and when she left the office, she bumped into a person who was rushing in. Ah, who's this person who did not open their eyes? Do you want to die? The person who had been bumped into shouted. After looking at her clearly, she stammered, It's you? Sima Yu looked at He Qiuji, who had become so arrogantly merely after not seeing her for a few months. She thought of how she had always carefully stood behind Meng Ting, yet now she had become so imposing. It looked like the person backing her had really made her life great recently. Chapter 55. Sima Yu. It's really you? Many of them from her class were outside the door and were incomparably surprised when they saw Sima Yu standing at the main gate. You've really returned alive. I knew that it was impossible for someone like you to die. And Meng Ting glanced at Sima Yu, and although these words did not sound that nice, Sima Yu still heard a trace of concern within them. Wow. This one actually was concerned about her? Then it should not have been her who instigated He Qiuji to cause her harm? She glanced at the He Qiuji who was standing beside, and He Qiuji subconsciously took a step back, thinking that she wanted to expose her. However, Sima Yu, contrary to her expectations, smiled and ignored her. She looked at everyone else and asked, How come you have all gathered here? We're all here to ballot. Meng Ting replied, Ballot? Looking at Sima Yu's confusion, the class monitor Shin and walked over. He said, In this period of time, we are beginning to receive assignments from school. Now we are going to ballot to get the assignment for our groups. Sima Yu thought of how Sima Yu ran and Sima Yu Lu seemed to always go out for assignments and nodded her head. After understanding clearly, she unexpectedly asked, Then, do I have to go with you all to ballot? Shinan shook his head and replied, You don't have to ballot. Your group has already decided on its assignment. Regarding that, you should go back and ask Wei Ziqi and the rest, then you will know. Oh, okay. Sima Yu nodded her head since that was what he had said. All she needed to do was to go back and ask. Then I will return back. You all can carry on balloting first. After she said this, she glanced over at He Qiuji, who was standing silently as the side. Once again, she smiled maliciously for a moment before leaving. Let's go. We will go over to where Master Feng is. Shin and urged everyone to walk towards Feng Zhixing's office. When He Qiuji saw everyone leave, she looked towards Sima Yu's back and thought of the gaze Sima Yu had when he was leaving. Her heart suddenly rose to her throat. She was definitely sure that when Sima Yu was entering the teleportation, he had confirmed that she the one who had pushed him. Looking at how he was not exposing her right now, he definitely was plotting something evil. Thinking of how the general's residence was backing Sima Yu, she was so afraid that she broke out into a cold sweat. If they came to seek revenge, she definitely would not even be enough for him to play with. No way. She definitely had to find them to protect her. A mere moment had passed before He Qiuji's heart started to waver and falter. Qiuji, aren't you coming? Meng Ting shouted when she saw He Qiuji just standing there. Coming. He Qiuji raised her skirt slightly and chased after them. Sima Yu returned back to her courtyard and immediately headed towards Fatty Chu's house. Fatty Chu. Fatty Chu. Sima Yu pounded upon Fatty Chu's door. Wei Ziqi, who was at the side, was the one who opened his door first and came out. What's happening? Oh, you didn't go out? Sima Yu looked at Wei Ziqi and said, You will do as well. I have something to ask you. Fairy Chu opened his door and he massaged his eyes and looked at Sima Yu, asking, Yu, what's up? Sima Yu looked over at Wei Ziqi, then entered Fatty Chu's house. Wei Ziqi also followed them in. Looking at how you're shouting with such anxiety, it must be that you're missing me? Fatty Chu saw the state that Sima Yu was in and smiled as he said, by this point, he was already familiar with Sima Yu, so he knew he was not the love-struck fool that he heard about from the rumors and was not afraid of joking with him in this way. What he didn't know was that the rumors were not wrong. It was just that the original spirit in the body had changed. Sima Yu found a stool to sit down and said, I just went to find Master Feng when I bumped into Shen En and the rest at the school gates. They said they were going to choose their assignments and told me to come back and ask you all, what's going on? Oh, you're talking about this. I would have forgotten it if you didn't bring it up. Fatty Chu came to sit beside Sima Yu and said, our school spends half the time studying and another half of the time carrying out assignments and cultivating. Do you know about this? Sima Yu nodded. After 2 more months, it will be our turn to carry out assignments. When that time comes, we will have to choose to execute a certain mission from the school. There are easy and difficult ones, so we have to ballot to decide. Fatty Chu continued to explain, then why do I not have to ballot? Sima Yu saw that everyone else had to go, but she didn't, so she felt a bit strange. Because this mission is completed in groups. 1 living quarters is 1 group, so you belong to this group. Fatty Chu looked over at Wei Ziqi, then said to Sima Yu with some regret, because we didn't know you were going to come back, so when Master Feng said that we had to choose mission, we chose the mission with the greatest difficulty, which is also the only grade A mission of the first years. So you all don't have to go and ballot? And because I am in the same living quarters as you all, I have to go along with you to execute this mission? Sima Yu asked the 2 of them. Wei Ziqi and Fatty Chu nodded their heads. This mission is quite difficult. Since you've just come back, you can choose not to come along with us. Wei Ziqi said tactfully, since he thought Sima Yu thought that Sima Yu was blaming them for choosing a dangerous mission. Why would I not want to come along? Sima Yu laughed. Aren't we all in the same group? Relax, I will not lag behind you guys. Looking at the excitement in Sima Yu's eyes, Wei Ziqi and Fatty Chu looked at him weirdly. Isn't this guy afraid of danger? Oh right, have you told Master Feng about the incident where someone harmed you? Fatty Chu thought of how Sima Yu had said the person who harmed him was someone from their class, and he asked casually. Nope. Sima Yu shook her head, but I've already met her. Then did you expose her? Fatty Chu probed agitatedly. Nope. Why didn't you expose her? She actually tried to kill you. Fatty Chu yelled. Sima Yu saw how agitated Fatty Chu was and knew he was seeking justice on her behalf, so she put a hand on his shoulder, saying, it's not the right time yet. I want to give her 2 more days. If it were me and I saw my enemy, I would rush up and beat him to death. Fatty Chu said, so who is the one who had pushed you? Wei Ziqi looked at Sima Yu and asked, within these few months, don't you feel that she has become more high profile? Sima Yu asked, is she the one who pushed you? Wei Ziqi asked. Sima Yu nodded her head in agreement, so it was her. Fatty Chu said, she had become more high profile these few months. I heard that it was because curried favor with the Nailin clan. What's up with the Nailin clan? Sima Yu rubbed her chin. If it was their clan, they would definitely have ideas and plots to kill her. Yu, the ancestor of this Nailin clan, has recently advanced in rank to become a spirit saint. In the past he was already unbearably arrogant, and even much more so now. If it was really them who hurt you, even if your father is the general who protects the country, if you rashly accuse them, I'm just afraid that you will be fruitless in your labor. Fatty Chu was a person from the capital and was more familiar with these kind of things. I understand this point, Sima Yu said, so I want to collect evidence and let the one who had harmed me get out of here before I take action. So what do you plan to do? Wei Ziqi saw the coldness flash in Sima Yu's eyes, and he gained in interest. Chapter 56. Sima Yu thought for a bit and said, we definitely have to get them to be the ones to confess this. I remember that the school has a rule that prevents students from harming one another. If we let others know that they injured me based on a personal grudge, they would get expelled by the school. As long as they are no longer students of our school, thinking of how to deal with them will become my own issue. Wanting them to confess might not be an easy thing. Even if they were to confess in front of you, if they were to turn around and lie, we would not be able to do anything. Fatty Chu said, sigh, if only we had a voice recorder. Sima Yu thought of the voice recorders she had in her previous life. If only she had something like that, it would be so much more convenient. Voice recorder? What's that? It's something that can record down voices. Something like, a weapon. Sima Yu explained, if only we were able to record the voice inside then play it out to listen again later. You can try a sound stone. Ouyang Fei's voice came in front outside the door. Ouyang Fei, you've also come in and take a seat. Fatty Chu smiled and greeted. Yang Fei looked over at Fatty Chu, but he didn't go in, saying, I just happened to listen as I walked past. You can use a sound stone for something like this. He left the moment he finished speaking. That's right. How could I forget about the sound stone? Wei Ziqi slapped his own head and said, What's a sound stone? Sima Yu asked. A sound stone is similar to the voice recorder you talked about just now. As long as you record down the voice, you just need to pour in some spiritual power inside to release the voice from inside again. Wei Ziqi explained. Really? Then do you have a sound stone? Sima Yu asked. Sound stones are really expensive. How would we possess one? Wei Ziqi said. Sima Yu glanced at Fatty Chu, but he also shook his head. But you can head over to the Xian Yuan Pavilion. Maybe there will be one inside. Oh right, I'll go and take a look over there. If they don't have one, then we will have to think of something else. Sima Yu turned around to leave once she finished speaking. Let's go together then. Anyway, I have nothing else to do. Fatty Chu said. Yup, I'm also done with my homework. Wei Ziqi said. Let's go together then. Sima Yu smiled. As such, the three of them left together. Bei Gongtang opened the door just as they were leaving. Looking at the direction of the main door, she touched the interspatial ring on her hand. The Xian Yuan Pavilion was the capital's largest shop. It sold things like spirit tools, spirit beasts, and medicine. If you said that the Xian Yuan Pavilion did not have something, you definitely would not be able to find it anywhere else. When Sima Yu's three-man gang entered, the assistant passionately came up to them. Well, if it isn't the fifth young master, it's been such a long time since I've seen you. What would fifth young master be looking to buy today? Sima Yu's disappearance from school was an incident that was known throughout the capital. Seeing Sima Yu here today, every single person was filled with surprise. It was not Sima Yu's first time here. In the past, for the sake of looking for things that Murongan liked, she would come here often. She glanced at the area for miscellaneous goods, saying, I want a sound stone. Sound stone? The assistant never thought that Sima Yu would actually want that and gave a start before apologizing. Fifth young master, our shop currently does not have a sound stone. It doesn't? Fatty Chu said, this is the capital's largest shop, but you actually don't have a single one? The assistant smiled, saying, you're right in saying that this is the capital's largest shop, but a sound stone is really hard to find. A few hundred years may pass before one appears. You know what they say, the best housewife can't cook without rice if it doesn't exist. Then of course we won't be able to have it, but didn't I hear that a sound stone appeared? It seemed to have been a piece of news that was spread from this place. Fatty Chu's news could be said to be efficiently fast. We indeed had one 2 months ago, but it has already been sold a month ago, the assistant said. Who bought it? Nailan Clan, the assistant replied. Sima Yu and Fatty Chu looked at each other. If this sound stone had been bought by others, just looking at Sima Yu's status and identity, it was still possible for her to buy it from them. However, if it had been bought by someone of the Nailan clan, wanting to buy it over was practically impossible. The three of them could only return without a sound stone. Yu, it doesn't matter. If we don't have a sound stone, then we can just think of something else. Fatty Chu consoled. Yeah, it's not like other methods are impossible. They're just really difficult. If we had a sound stone, we could just effortlessly chase them out of school. Sima Yu mused. Why don't I send a letter back to my family to see if they can help us look around? Wei Ziqi asked. No need. It would be best if we could get that sound stone today. After a few days, finding it would also be useless. Sima Yu said. Why do you need it to be today? Fatty Chu couldn't understand. Because tonight, He Qiuji will be going to look for that person. Sima Yu explained. Looking at the disappointments on Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi's faces, she smiled. It's okay, although tonight was the best opportunity, and we have some regrets of letting it pass, we still have other methods, right? The two of you don't look so downcast. Yup, if you need anything you have to tell us directly, Fatty Chu said. Okay, I will. Creak. Bei Gongtang's door opened and she appeared outside the door. She looked at the three people in the courtyard and threw something towards Sima Yu before saying indifferently, I'm hungry. Are you cooking tonight? If you're not cooking, then I will go to the canteen. Sima Yu caught the thing that Bei Gongtang had thrown to her and realized it was a small piece of stone. She saw that it was nothing special apart from having some purple veins on the surface. What is this? She asked as she noticed that the stone was rather pretty and felt nice in her hand. A sound stone. Wei Ziqi shouted in surprise when he saw the stone. This is a sound stone? Sima Yu looked at Bei Gongtang. How come she would have something like this? When they were on the road back, Little Roar was despising how this world didn't have a single thing in the place where she lived in her past life. This kind of stone was something that was thrown at the side of the road that people wouldn't even bother to pick up, but now this entire country did not even possess one. It was too poor, too poor. Although Sima Yu did not know which world Little Roar was referring to, she knew that this world had other places, and these places were much more superior than where she was currently. Yup, in the past I happened to pick it up, Bei Gongtang explained simply. You haven't told me whether or not you're going to cook. Sima Yu smiled widely and nodded, saying, I am. It's still early right now, so they shouldn't be moving yet. Let's eat our fill before taking action. After saying this, she threw the soundstone into her interspatial ring and headed into the kitchen. Because she had gotten used to it when she was living on Pu Luo mountain range, she was accustomed to leaving things inside her interspatial ring, forgetting that in the eyes of the others, she was someone who was unable to cultivate and was actually supposed to be unable to use this interspatial ring. Wei Ziqi and Fatty Chu heard that there were good things to eat and left with Sima Yu without realizing that she could already cultivate. Bei Gongtang looked at Sima Yu thoughtfully, but she didn't say a word. She turned and entered the house, waiting for Sima Yu to call her out to eat. Chapter 57. After Sima Yu went missing, everyone had no opportunity to eat her cooking anymore, so now that she had made a large table of dishes, apart from leaving some aside for Ouyang Fei, every plate had been picked clean by these few people. After they finished eating, Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi took the initiative to stay behind to clean the plates and bowls. When they had just finished cleaning the bowls, Sima Yu received some news from Little Roar, telling her the He Chou-ji had left her place at this time. It was already very late, around 12 midnight. It was unknown what she wanted to do by leaving at this time. In going out, Sima Yu said to Fatty Chu and the gang, did He Chou-ji leave her house? Fatty Chu asked. Sima Yu nodded, then well, go as well. Wei Ziqi pulled off the apron that Sima Yu had prepared for him. It was their first time wearing something like this, so these two men were unaccustomed to it. However, they did not wish to dirty their clothes. Thinking about it, they were at home anyway, so it didn't matter. Sima Yu also did not say anything as she brought these two people out, according to what Little Roar reported to her. The three of them fumbled about towards the small lakeside at the academy. Yu, how did you know that she would be here? Fatty Chu asked when he saw Sima Yu had directly run over to this place. Sima Yu had yet to answer when Little Roar flew over. Looking at Little Roar, the two of them immediately understood. It turns out that Yu had sent Little Roar to monitor He Chou-ji long ago. Yu, now this evil woman has appeared, but there's no one else. Little Roar reported the situation. After hearing what Little Roar said, the other two widened their eyes in shock. They had always assumed that Little Roar was just a pet that Sima Yu had been keeping, but thinking about how it could actually speak, it means that it was a spirit beast that was at least of the saint rank. Sima Yu hugged Little Roar and said towards Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi, let's look for a place to hide first. The person backing He Chou-ji might appear any second. Okay. The three of them saw that there was a rock garden not too far away from the pavilion, and so slowly inched their way towards that rock garden. Together with He Chou-ji, who was inside the pavilion, they waited for that person. He Chou-ji was looking outside the pavilion the whole time, pacing back and forth anxiously. After a moment, a silhouette slowly appeared. Miss Nailin, you finally come. He Chou-ji quickly came over. The moment she saw the person who had come, Nailin Lan glanced over at the panicky He Chou-ji, walked over to the pavilion and sat down directly before asking, say it, why did you call me out so late at night? Sima Yu didn't think that the person backing He Chou-ji was actually Nailin Lan, the one who had watched the original owner of this body get beaten to death together with Murongan. It was evident that the appearance of Nailin Lan had given both Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi in shock. They never thought that the one who wanted to harm Sima Yu was actually the completely unrelated Nailin Lan. Miss Nailin, I had no other choice but to call you out. He Chou-ji knelt down, looking at Nailin Lan as she said, Miss Nailin, save me. He Chou-ji's words caught the attention of the three people hiding behind the rock garden, so Sima Yu took out the soundstone, pouring spirit power into it. Once the purple veins on the soundstone felt the spirit power, it was as if it were alive. The veins started to move, scaring Sima Yu so much that she almost flung the stone aside. Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi only now realized that Sima Yu was using an interspatial ring, looking at her using her spiritual power to activate the Soundstone, both of them stared at her with shock that was greater than when they had seen Nalan Lan. What Fatty Chu wanted to say something, but his mouth was covered by the person beside him. Wei Ziqi shook his head at Fatty Chu, indicating to him not to speak. Although his own heart was filled with question, he knew that if he were to speak right now, he would disrupt Sima Yuyu's plan. Fatty Chu blinked his eyes, indicating that he understood. Only then did Wei Ziqi put down his hand. Sima Yu looked gratefully at Wei Ziqi before turning to continue looking at the two people in the pavilion from the stone garden. Save you? Nalan Lan looked contemptuously at He Chou-ji, who was kneeling on the ground. This kind of person had no real worth in her eyes, but she had helped her to get rid of Sima Yu, so she had forced herself to allow He Chou-ji to follow after her. Say it. Who have you provoked this time? It's Sima Yu. He has returned, He Chou-ji said. Sima Yu? Hearing the name Sima Yu, Nalan Lan was shocked and said, You said that he has returned? Yes, I saw him today at the academy building. He was alive and well. He Chou-ji shuddered when she thought of the way that Sima Yu had looked at her. How come? Are you certain that it's him? Looking at how He Chou-ji did not look like she was lying. She was extremely surprised. It's really him. He Chou-ji affirmed. Miss Nalan, you said that after entering the fourth teleportation array, he would definitely die. It was only because I believed you that I was willing to push him in, but now that he has returned and he even wants to find me for revenge, his gaze when he looked at me made my hairs stand on ends. He even said that he wants to come for my life. Miss Nalan, you have to save me. You were the one who made me do it. As she said this, she stretched forth a hand to pull onto Nalan Lan's clothes. Seeking a sense of security, Nalan Lan brushed He Chou-ji's hand aside, saying, What are you so uptight about? Even if that waste has returned, what can he do to me? He must have seen that it was me who pushed him into the fourth teleportation array. He will definitely find me for revenge. He Chou-ji cried. The academy prevents students from mutually killing each other if one had been found with intentions to harm another. Once it was found out by the academy, the person would immediately be expelled from academy. Nalan Lan was calm. As long as Sima Yu has no evidence, he will have no way of doing anything to us. As long as you don't accept when he comes to you looking to battle, you will not be in any danger anyway. Does that waste even dare to come to the academy courtyard looking for trouble with you? Could it be that you can't even win over a waste? But I'm afraid that hell play dirty, He Chou-ji said worriedly. Didn't I just tell you that he won't dare to do anything to you in academy? Not unless he plans to be expelled by the academy, Nalan Lan objected. But what about outside the academy premises? He Chou-ji asked. Outside? Then you just have to not leave the academy premises and all will be well, Nalan Lan said. During this period of time, you just have to remain in academy. Don't you all have to go and complete some missions for academy? The question still remains of whether or not he will be able to return alive in the future. Don't come to look for me for these kind of things. You're really a cowardly waste. I don't like the people who are following me to be of this kind of character. Do you understand? After saying this, she did not wait for He Chou-ji to reply before turning around to leave the pavilion. He Chou-ji watched as Nalan Lan departed before walking far away to spit in contempt. What are you so prideful for? You just have a good clan backing you. If you didn't have the Nalan clan, wouldn't you just be the same as the rest of us? If you don't protect me, they'll just drag you through the mud with me. Every one of us can die together. Pui. He Chou-ji left before Sima Yu finally stopped pumping spirit power into the sound stone. She turned around to face the two of them and said, With this thing, we'll see how they can object. I know you guys have questions on your hearts. Let's talk about them when we get home. In order to prevent any accidents, the three of them avoided everyone else before sneaking back to their house. Chapter 58. When they returned to Sima Yu's room, the first thing they did was to take a look at the results of using the sound stone. She took out the sound stone and inserted a bit of spirit energy into it. After that, she placed it on the table and the veins on the sound stone began to move. It quickly began to play back the conversation that had taken place between He Chou-ji and Nalan Lan at the lakeside. Once the conversation had ended, the sound stone quietened down. This is truly very strange. Sima Yu's eyes flashed after she had finished listening to it. She never expected that the stone would be so powerful, but she still had a question in her heart. This sound stone was so rare that even the Xian Yuan Pavilion didn't have one. So how come Bei Gong Tang did? You should answer our questions now, right? Fatty Chu's voice caused Sima Yu to gather her thoughts. And she looked at them with confusion. What questions? The matter of you being able to cultivate? Fatty Chu looked pointedly at the inconspicuous ring on her finger. If it wasn't for the fact that they knew it was an interspatial ring, many people would not even think of it. You being able to use that interspatial ring, being able to infuse the soundstone with spirit energy, this means that you are a spirit master. That's right, I'm a spirit master now, Sima you admitted, but weren't you unable to cultivate? Wei Ziqi and Gang probably didn't know, but Fatty Chu and all those who were close to her all knew that inside information about Sima Yu. Yup, in the past, I was unable to cultivate, Sima Yu explained, but during this time when I had gone missing, I happened upon some fortuitous encounters and my clogged meridians were opened, thus I am able to cultivate now, really? Fatty Chu's eyes widened, who knew that him going missing was actually a blessing in disguise. Not only had he survived, he even gained the ability to cultivate. Sima Yu nodded her head, saying, but the details of my encounter, I really find it difficult to elaborate on. Anyway, this is its end result. With regards to this, previously it was only my family that knew about it, but now you two know as well. You two definitely have to keep this a secret for me. But why? Fatty Chu could not understand. Your ability to cultivate is a good thing. Why would you not want others to find out? If others knew that you were able to cultivate, they would no longer curse at you for being a waste. What others want to think about me is their own problem. I don't care, Sima Yu said, but if others found out that I knew how to cultivate, I'm afraid that it would draw no end of troubles. Fatty Chu knew that Sima Yu was talking about the Nalan clan, had heard about it the last time when he went back home. The feud between the general's residence and the Nalan clan had increased in tenacity. It was only because they knew that Sima Yu was a waste and so had not made any moves to hurt him for the time being. If they knew that he was able to cultivate, they would definitely move against him. Okay. We will definitely not speak a word of this to anyone. Fatty Chu nodded his head fervently in agreement. Wei Ziqi nodded his head in a similar fashion. Sima Yu smiled, saying, thank you both. Why are you thanking us? Fatty Chu said, we are friends, of course we would help you to protect your secret. We'd initially planned not to let you go fulfill this mission with us because it would be dangerous to you. Although you can cultivate, your rank must not be too high. If you go, you will still be in some danger. However, if we're talking about cultivation, this is a rare opportunity to put it into practice, so you can think about whether or not you want to go. Sima Yu merely smiled when he heard Wei Ziqi say that her rank was not high and did not reply. His words had no intent to hurt her, and people normally would not think that she would be able to cultivate to such an extent in such a short period of time. Furthermore, he had said this with her best interests at heart. Since it is a mission that has been assigned to our group, I definitely have to be there, Sima Yu said, but you all can relax. I will not drag you down. We are not afraid that you would drag us down. It is just that this mission is quite dangerous. If there happens to be a dangerous situation where we cannot protect you, it is possible that you would lose your life. Fatty Chu explained, I understand, Sima Yu said, I'm someone who really values my life. You two can rest assured, since you've already decided, then it's fine. Wei Ziqi did not add anything else, only looking at Sima Yu and saying, so when do you want to expose the true colors of these two people? Sima Yu looked at the soundstone lying on the table and smiled sinisterly. With regards to this, the earlier the better, so as to avoid harming my eyes whenever I have to look at them. That Nalan clan is truly more rampant inside the school compounds. If you were to cause the talent of their family to be expelled from school, that family would definitely explode in anger. Fatty Chu laughed. Explode in anger? Sima Yu smirked. That would be great. On the second day, Sima Yu attended class as per normal, and when people saw her on the way to class, they stared at her with wide eyes. Didn't that waste die? How come he's back? Yeah. Didn't they say that all who entered the fourth teleportation array would never survive to return? That's what they say. Then how come that waste is back? Furthermore, looking at his appearance, nothing happened to him at all. Could it be that the teleportation array had no killing power towards that waste? Damn. If that's really the case, isn't that trash too lucky? Being a trash actually saved his life. Don't speak so loudly. If he heard you, he'd call men from the residence to dispose of you. TSK, isn't he just relying on support from the general enough? Let's go. My mood is ruined from looking at that waste. A few of them left after speaking a few sentences. When Sima Yu walked in front of them, she heard everything clearly. These few people were just jealous because they didn't have superior family backgrounds and felt that, as a waste, she actually had this kind of life and environment. Life was really unfair to them. When the new students from the elite class walked into the classroom, they weren't as surprised as the people before. After all, many people had already seen her yesterday. When Sima Yu entered the classroom, she saw He Qiuji, and she also saw her. Seeing that, she looked over. She smiled profoundly, causing her to look down immediately in fear. She sat with Bei Gongtang at the last row and saw that her seat was completely clean and free of even a single speck of dust. "I don't like the seat beside me to be dirty," Bei Gongtang explained simply as she took out a textbook to read. "Thank you." No matter what she said, she had helped her to clean her desk and so deserved her gratitude. "You guys went out yesterday night? Have you settled things?" Bei Gongtang was still looking at the textbooks but thinking of the way that Sima Yu had looked at He Qiuji. She thought that there would be a good show to watch soon. She didn't know why, but looking at Sima Yu gave her a kind of amiable feeling. She even cared about his problems. This was something that she had never felt before in the past. Her heart was strong, and when she had returned to that place, she had exacted her revenge on some people. Actually being able to care for something like this was something that she thought was strange. "Yup, it's all been settled. I'm just waiting for class to end." Sima Yu smiled as she replied. Chapter 59. Soon after, a teacher walked inside. He had been a little surprised when he saw Sima Yu, but he very quickly regained his composure and began class. This class was on geography, and it happened to be about Pu Luo mountain range. After talking about the topography of the area, the teacher began to teach about the spirit beasts on the mountain. The entire class was focused on teaching the students about things like the characteristics of the various spirit beasts. Sima Yu turned serious upon hearing this, especially since she desired to accustom herself better to this world. Furthermore, on the Pu Luo mountain range, she had encountered some of the spirit beasts that the teacher had mentioned, so it wasn't too dry or boring. Especially since the things that the teacher was talking about were pretty useful. If she had known about these things before she had ended up in Pu Luo mountain range, she would not have faced such difficulty when she encountered those spirit beasts. Bei Gongtang and her listened to these things extremely seriously, but Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi, these two, had their minds wandering everywhere. They were barely listening to class and were very distracted with much difficulty. They managed to last till the end of class. The moment the teacher left, the two of them looked at Sima Yu and immediately ran out. One of them went to look for Feng Zhixing while another ran towards the Academy Plaza. Before he left, Wei Ziqi even shouted at the classrooms, "If you want to see something exciting, come to the Academy Plaza." Being enticed by Wei Ziqi's cliffhanger, everyone's curiosity had been aroused, so they all headed towards the Academy Plaza. He Qiuji saw that everyone had left, but she just sat unmoving at her seat. She had a kind of foreboding that this exciting news had something to do with her. "Let's go." Sima Yu and Bei Gongtang were waiting inside the classroom. They saw that everyone else had left, but He Qiuji still sat at her seat with no indication of moving, so they walked forward to say, "I am not going," He Qiuji said. "I have something on, right? I have something I need to do, so I'll be leaving first." After saying this, she stood up and prepared to leave. Sima Yu immediately grabbed her collar, saying, "You're the main lead of today's show. If you don't go, this show will be incomplete, right? Let's go." "Sima Yu, release me." He Qiuji heard what Sima Yu had said and was even more reluctant to go. She twisted her body, wanting to break free of Sima Yu's grasp. But no matter how much she struggled, it was like she was held in a death grip that refused to budge. Sima Yu saw how restless He Qiuji was and grabbed onto her hand, pulling it backwards. It hurt her so much that she grounded her teeth and roared, "Sima Yu, what do you want to do? Aren't you afraid of being expelled? There's no point thinking about these little things." Sima Yu increased the strength in her hand. "You think that I would deal with you personally? There's no way that I would give the Nalan clan an excuse to expel me since I've said that you have to go. Then you better not resist." Bei Gongtang is not as easily appeased as I am. He Qiuji saw Bei Gongtang, who was standing at the side, and gave up all thoughts of resisting. These few months they've also started practice battles. If Bei Gongtang said that her battle abilities were only ranked second, nobody would dare claim to be the first. "Since you've chosen to harm me, you should have been prepared for a day like this to come." Sima Yu smiled coldly as she said. By the time Sima Yu and Bei Gongtang had finally brought He Qiuji to the Academy Plaza, The plaza had been filled with so many people. Aside from the new students, there were even a few seniors. This Academy Plaza happened to be at the heart of the school and was a place that students definitely had to walk by after class. After hearing that something exciting was going to take place, everyone decided to stay back. The people who were waiting to see the exciting show were standing there in twos and threes, as everyone wondered what exciting thing was going to happen today. Nalan and Morong had came in together from class, and there were even 3 or 4 other people who had came with them from their previous class. They were walking past the Academy Plaza when they were barred from walking along by Sima Yu. When they saw Sima Yu, the faces of these 2 people turned black. Immediately, Morong N's face was even colder as he said, "Sima Yu, why are you looking for me again? Sima Yu, how can you be so shameless? I've just heard of your return, but you immediately come to hold on to Master Morong." The people behind immediately began to rage. When did he ever have any semblance of shame? When did he not act like a dog, running over every single time he met Master Morong? Sima Yulu had received news from Sima Yu in the morning, telling him to come over to the Academy Plaza after school. Who knew that he would hear these people scolding his younger brother, so he rushed over to these people who had been talking and immediately beat them up. "You dare to curse at my younger brother, you're asking for death." Ah! Those who had been on the receiving end of his punch were left sprawled on the ground, groaning about in pain. Sima Yulu, "Are you looking for a fight?" Those people immediately helped their friends up. "So what if I'm looking for a fight?" Sima Yulu looked at the people who were glaring at him, and he stood in front of Sima Yu. He raised his chin as if he was taunting them to see who would dare step forward to fight with him. Sima Yu pulled at Sima Yu's arm, saying, "Fourth brother, wasting your words on these imbeciles would only lower our own status, don't you think?" "Sima Yu, what did you say?" Some people hollered, "Look, fourth brother, they don't even understand such simple words. If you continued to reason with them, it would be completely meaningless." Sima Yu shrugged her shoulders after that. She looked towards Morongan, saying, "Morongan, you're even more disgusting than they are. A narcissistic dog is the most vile of them all." The activities on this side had long aroused the interest of many people. After hearing what Sima Yu had said, everyone was incomparably shocked. When had Sima Yu learned to speak to Morongan like that? "What did you say?" Sima Yu had called him a dog in front of everyone, and he was even a waste. This made him extremely furious. "You were one from the start," Sima Yu said. "I didn't even come to look for you today, but the moment you opened your mouth you asked me why I came to look for you. Isn't that narcissism? Or are you saying that you've been enraptured by my charming good looks, hoping that I, this young master, had come to look for you for whatever reason? Nonsense." Morong immediately refuted, "Nonsense or not, I can't be bothered to argue with you." Sima Yu saw that Fatty Chu had already brought Feng Zhixing over, and the Fatty, who was the teaching director, had also tagged along, so she knew that the timing was just about to arrive. She said, "Nalan Lan, I came today to look for you. Look for me?" When Nalan Lan heard what Sima Yu had said, her heart involuntarily started to pound. She convinced herself that it was impossible for Sima Yu to find any evidence against her. Even if he Qiuji accused her of doing anything, all she had to do was to refute it. As a result, her heart started to calm down again. She asked, "Why are you looking for me? Why is everyone gathered over here? Also, who is the one who asked us to come?" The teaching direction creased his eyebrows in question as he saw the large crowd of people gathered in the plaza. "Director, it was me who asked them to invite you here." Sima Yu stepped 2 steps forward and said, "I have something that I want everyone in the academy to help me judge." Looking at Sima Yu, the teaching director's eyes flashed with disdain and hatred, but he still asked, "What is it about? Last time when we were choosing spirit beast eggs, someone had harmed me and pushed me into the 4th teleportation array. This is something that everyone knows now. I've already found out who is the one who hurt me initially. I wanted to find her for revenge, but I thought of the rule that forbid me from taking revenge into my own hands, so I specially invited everyone here to help me be the judge. Who is it?" The teaching director had yet to say a word when Feng Zhixing asked. He always had his suspicions. There were so many people, so why was she the one who entered the 4th teleportation array? It turned out that someone had sabotaged her, thinking of how she had almost failed to return. His clear eyes flashed with a coldness. Sima Yu hatefully glared at the people around him. Since Sima Yu had chosen this place to say it, The person who had harmed his brother was definitely around. Here, thinking of how there was someone who actually dared to harm Sima Yu. His face revealed unrestrained malice. Fifth brother? Who was it that dared to harm you? Chapter 60. Fourth brother, do not be anxious. I believe that the academy will judge this fairly. Sima Yu patted Sima Yu on the back. After that, she turned towards He Qiuji, who was already so scared that her whole body was trembling, then turned again towards Nalan, who looked confident that nothing would happen to her. She said, Nalan Lan, why did you hurt me? Sima Yu's words caused the initially quiet plaza to explode with conversation. Everyone stared at Nalan Lan with disbelief. The one who had harmed Sima Yu was actually her. Sima Yu, don't talk nonsense. When did I harm you? Nalan Lan quickly refuted. You went missing during the time where new students were choosing their spirit beast eggs. But I am a senior student. How could I have harmed you? I wasn't with you when you went to the cave. The teaching director nodded his head, saying, Nalan Lan has spoken the truth. She's not a new student. How could she have harmed you? Sima Yu looked at the way the teaching director was acting and realized that he was already going to be biased towards Nalan Lan. She might have had no way, but she made someone else do it, right, He Qiuji? You wouldn't have pushed me into the fourth teleportation array for no reason, right? When He Qiuji was pointed out by name, her entire bottle involuntarily trembled. She raised her head and saw that everyone was looking at her and could not form her sentences properly. Nalan Lan looked at the way He Qiuji was behaving, then she looked at the teaching director with grief, saying, Director, I really have no intention to harm Sima Yu at all. If he lets He Qiuji accuse me as the mastermind, I would really be hard-pressed to defend myself. He Qiuji never expected that Nalan Lan would say this, so she stared at her in shock. Her eyes flashed with anger and helplessness, saying, Miss Nalan Lan, it was clearly you who told me that entering the fourth teleportation array would definitely end in death. You asked me to push Sima Yu in during the time where they were choosing spirit beast eggs, but now you're pushing all the responsibility onto me. Nalan Lan acted as if she knew this was going to happen all along and said, Everyone look, I told you all that she was going to say this. I think that this is something that Sima Yu asked you to say, right? Isn't it just that you are very clear on what happened? Sima Yu smirked. She felt that the way Nalan Lan was acting really resembled a clown that was jumping up and down. Clear on what? Sima Yu, I know that the relationship between our families is not that great, but you can't frame me like this. Sima Yu, just what are you planning to do? Morongin hatefully glared at Sima Yu, feeling that Sima Yu was doing this just to get his attention, but he was increasing disgusted by him. Why do you care about what I want to do? Sima Yu looked at Morongin with disdain. Looking at the way he was acting, she knew he was being narcissistic again. Feng Zhixing had finally regained his calm and said, Yu, you're saying that He Qiuji is the one who pushed you into the teleportation array, but it was under Nalan Lan's orders? Sima Yu nodded. Feng Zhixing looked at He Qiuji and with a face covered with frost, he asked, He Qiuji, do you admit to your crime? He Qiuji took a look at the way Feng Zhixing was behaving and immediately knelt down. Master Feng, I never wanted to harm Sima Yu. It was Nalan Lan who made me do it. If it was not for her ordering me to do it as a new student, how would I know that there would be something wrong with the fourth teleportation array? The entire school knows that there's something wrong with the fourth teleportation array. It's not just Nalan Lan. On what basis do you claim that it was her who told you to do it? Do you have any evidence? The teaching director said, if not, I could say that it was someone else who asked you to do it and you just want to cover up for the one backing you. My words are the very evidence. It was really Nalan Lan who asked me to do it. He Qiuji never expected that the teaching director would not believe what she said and was momentarily stunned. Sima Yu did not think that the current situation was anything out of her expectations after all. This teaching director's surname was Nalan. He was part of the Nalan clan. Of course, he would say things to the benefit of Nalan Lan. It is a given that your words do not count as evidence. The teaching director said, if you have no other evidence, I have to cast the verdict for this issue. He Qiuji started at Nalan Lan unresignatedly. At the point of time, she never expected that Sima Yu would be able to survive to return. Furthermore, whenever the two of them met in private, they only had verbal agreements. Of course, she would not have any other types of evidences right now. The teaching director, will announce the verdict. She has caused harm to Sima Yu, which has violated the law of our academy that states you may not harm another student. As a result, Ji must leave the academy. She will be expelled and will no longer be under the academy's protection. After leaving, she is also not allowed to declare herself as a student of our academy. The teaching director proclaimed, Don't expel me. She cried as she heard that the teaching director has expelled her just like this. It was really Nalan Lan who asked me to do it. She's the real mastermind. Nonsense. As of this moment you are no longer our student. If you continue to slander a student of our academy will not let you off lightly. The teaching director hollered before turning around to face Sima Yu, asking, What do you think about this way of settling it? Sima Yu was just waiting for the punishment that the teaching director would meter out against Ji before saying, The punishment for the accomplice is very satisfactory, but the teaching director can also justly settle the main culprit. When the teaching director heard what Sima Yu had said, his eyebrows raised involuntarily, saying, What do you mean? I mean what I said. Sima Yu said, Just now you asked for evidence, but you only asked Ji, you didn't ask me. You're saying that you have evidence? Yes, I do, Ziqi, Sima Yu said as she looked towards Wei Ziqi. Here, Wei Ziqi took out the sound stone and handed it over to Sima Yu. Sima Yu took the sound stone and turned to give it to Feng Xing, saying, It's all inside here. Feng Xing didn't expect that Sima Yu actually had a sound stone. Of course, he knew how to use it and poured in some spirit power, causing the veins on the sound stone to move once again. Director, you should listen to this carefully, Sima Yu. You smiled as she said, Save you? Say it, who have you provoked this time? Nalan Lan's voice came out from the sound stone. It's Sima Yu, he's returned. It was Shi's voice. Sima Yu? You say that he's returned? That's right, I saw him today at the academy building. He's alive and well, he didn't die. How can this be? Are you sure it's him? The voices that came from the sound stone stunned Ji and Nalan Lan. This was the conversation they had when they were at the lakeside yesterday night at the pavilion. It really was him. Miss Nalan, you said that entering the fourth teleportation array would definitely mean death. It was only because I believed you that I pushed him in, but now he has returned and even wants to take revenge on me. When I saw his eyes, I had goosebumps all over. He really wants to take my life. Miss Nalan, you have to save me. You're the one who made me do it. What are you so uptight about? Even if that trash came back, what can he do to us? He saw that I was the one who pushed him into the fourth teleportation array. He will definitely come to look for me for revenge. The academy prevents students from mutually killing each other. If one had been found with intentions to harm another, once it was found out by the academy, the person would immediately be expelled from academy. Nalan Lan was calm. As long as Sima Yu has no evidence, he will have no way of doing anything to us. As long as you don't accept when he comes to you looking to battle, you will not be in any danger anyway. Does that waste even dare to come to the academy courtyard looking for trouble with you? Could it be that you can't even win over a waste? Listening up to this point, the students all started at Nalan Lan with shock. It was really her who had instigated Ji to do it. Chapter 61. Nalan, it really was you. Murong and heard the conversation coming from the soundstone and stared at Nalan Lan with disbelief. Nalan Lan never expected that Sima Yu would have this item. She thought that he did not have any evidence. But now this was definitely conclusive proof, rendering her unable to dispute anything. Director, you've heard the conversation. She was merely a henchman. The real mastermind was Nalan Lan. She's the one who wanted to kill me, Sima Yu said. The teaching director's face was so black and thunderous. He didn't think that Sima Yu would actually be able to do this, shooting Nalan Lan so directly. If she was an ordinary person, it would be fine to expel her. However, Nalan Lan was the genius of the Nalan clan. If she were to be expelled, the family members would definitely not let him off easily. Even if he was now the teaching director of this academy, he was still restricted by the family. Director, you've seen the evidence. Please pass a fair judgment on my students. Feng Xing looked at the way the teaching director was behaving and said directly, This, Sima Yu, this only has the voices. They've only mentioned the name of Miss Nalan, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's Nalan Lan, so this evidence is not solid enough. The teaching director thought for a while and said this sentence that even he found hard to believe. When the surrounding students heard this, they all sucked in a breath. Director, what do you mean by this? Feng Zhixing said coldly. The teaching director appeared as if he was very satisfied by the explanation that he had come up with and said, "This is exactly what I mean. The evidence is not satisfactory and is not enough to incriminate Nalan Lan. As a result, it is not possible to do anything towards Nalan Lan. Director, how could you be like this?" Sima Yulu shouted at the teaching director. "Sima Yulu, what kind of attitude are you showing me?" The teaching director looked at Sima Yulu unsatisfactorily. "If you continue being this way, I might even charge you with disrespect against a teacher." The teaching director had yet to finish speaking when he felt as if he saw someone flash past. After that, Nalan Lan suddenly screamed, "Sima Yulu, what are you doing?" The teaching director shouted when he saw that Sima Yulu was standing in front of Nalan Lan and had placed a dagger on her neck when everyone was not looking. "What am I doing? Can't you see?" Sima Yulu said, "In any case, you have already decided to favor her. The evidence is clear, but you want to punish her. It looks like harming another student can't mean much. I'm just thinking that since this is the case, I can just take things into my own hands and settle this. I'm not sure what will happen if this blade accidentally slips. Will her head still remain on her neck? Stay your hand." The teaching director anxiously shouted when he saw that Sima Yuyu's dagger was moving. "Why should I stop?" Sima Yuyu stared at the teaching director mockingly. "So many students have heard the conversation between He Qiuji and Nalan Lan, but no matter what, you seem to want to say it isn't her. Since this is the case, I can kill her but still claim that it wasn't me. Anyway, I believe that the general's residence has the power to keep everyone silent." The teaching director saw that a line of blood had started to form under Sima Yuyu's blade that was pressed against Nalan Lan's neck and wanted to quickly pull them apart. However, for Zhixing blocked him. The two of them exchanged 2 moves before separating. The teaching director glared at Feng Zhixing and shouted, "Master Feng, what are you doing? By blocking me, are you planning to let Sima Yuyu kill Nalan Lan?" Feng Zhixing stood in front of Sima Yuyu and looked at the teaching director, saying, "I feel that Sima Yuyu has a point. Since you are unwilling to pass a fair judgment on behalf of my students, I will allow him to settle things himself. I will allow him to settle things before I punish him." Sima Yuyu almost laughed when she heard what Feng Zhixing had said. What did he mean that he would allow her to settle things before punishing her? By that time, Nalan Lan would already be dead. He just had to expel her and things would be settled, but at that time the Nalan clan would have lost a genius, but all she had to do was leave the academy. Furthermore, she was certain that the teaching director did not dare to really let her harm Nalan Lan. If not, he would have no way to give an account to the Nalan clan. "Feng Zhixing, I want to punish you," the teaching director said, "but if you move aside now, I will not pursue it." The teaching director did not know how strong Feng Zhixing was. He only knew that he was an important person to the principal. As a result, he did not wish to fight him right now. The way he saw it, Feng Zhixing was offending his superiors and obstructing his enforcement of the law. Giving him this chance could be said to be treating him fairly. However, Feng Zhixing did not plan to accept his good graces. "Since you are unable to conduct things justly, it is a given that I would no longer be able to believe your words." Feng Zhixing acted as if he was very earnest and said, "As a result, I will no longer allow you to harm my student any longer. If you want to punish me, then go ahead. Sima Yuyu, do you know what kind of ending you will meet if you dare to harm Nalan Lan?" The teaching director turned to say to Sima Yuyu when he saw that Feng Zhixing refused to move and that Sima Yuyu's dagger could take Nalan Lan's life any moment. "Won't I just be expelled?" Sima Yuyu smirked maliciously, "But before I even get expelled, I will do as I please." After saying this, she brandished her dagger and prepared to slash it across Nalan Lan. "Stop." The people standing around were shocked by Sima Yuyu's actions as the teaching director hastened to call out. When Sima Yuyu's blade was just 1 centimeter away from Nalan Lan's neck, a terrifying spirit pressure came from the school building, freezing everyone on the compound in place. Only Feng Zhixing was able to turn his body to look at the place which the spirit pressure was coming from. That place was the principal's office. The window of the principal's office opened as a person flew out from the inside. Landing on the plaza, he looked at Sima Yuyu and Nalan Lan, walked over to pull Nalan Lan out of Sima Yuyu's clutches. After that, he released the terrifying spirit pressure. "Everyone else disperse. The few of you, come with me to the principal's office." The principal looked at Sima Yuyu and Gang, clasped his hands behind his back and left. Nobody dared to dispute the principal's words, and everyone who had come to see the exciting show had left. Sima Yuyu and Feng Zhixing, Sima Yulu The teaching director, Nalan Lan, and He Chioshi followed the principal to his office. Nalan Lan covered her neck with her hands, hatefully glaring at Sima Yuyu. It was too sudden just now, and she did not even notice when Sima Yuyu had come close to her. Just now, she really felt Sima Yuyu's strong urge to kill. She knew that if the principal had not appeared, Sima Yuyu would really have killed her. Sima Yuyu glanced at Nalan Lan and made an action of slitting her throat. Looking at her involuntarily retracting her neck, she beamed. After that, she looked at Feng Zhixing, who had walked in front of her. She had noticed that under the principal's spirit pressure, he actually managed to retain his movement. This meant that he was stronger than the principal. The principal was known to be the strongest person in the country of Dongqin. Even stronger than Sima Lai. Feng Zhixing did not look that old. Was he really stronger than the principal? What was a person like this hiding in a school for? Chapter 62. Arriving at the principal's office, everyone took their own initiative to stand into two lines. Nalan Lan stood behind the teaching director while Sima Yuyu and Sima Yula stood behind Feng Zhixing. He Chioshi took a look before standing to Sima Yuyu's side. The principal sat in his seat before turning to look at the teaching director, saying, "How are you governing the issues of the students that you almost allowed manslaughter?" "Principal, it was Sima Yuyu that wanted to kill Nalan Lan, but when I wanted to stop it, Master Feng blocked me. You should ask Master Feng why he wanted to block me." The teaching director threw the entirety of the blame to Sima Yuyu and Feng Zhixing. The principal looked at Feng Zhixing, then his face frosted over. He appeared to be fuming mad. She had heard that the principal was very terrifying once he became angry, so Sima Yuyu could not help but to feel slightly worried for Feng Zhixing. She was afraid that the principal would make trouble for him. However, the principal shouted at the teaching director once again, "You think that your words are the only ones that count in this academy? Although I don't poke my nose much into the affairs of this academy, do you think I am blind? I watched the unfoldings at the plaza extremely clearly. You still want to push the blame to others? It looks like you're the teaching director for nothing. Do you wish to give up your position? I'll immediately call for someone to take over." "No, Principal," the teaching director wanted to explain, but he had been stared down by the principal. "Where's the sound stone?" The principal asked. Feng Zhixing stepped forward and placed the sound stone on his desk. The principal picked up the sound stone and infused it with spirit power. The previous conversation sounded once again. While listening to it, he glared daggers at the teaching director. Its meaning was that things were already so obvious, but he had actually made this kind of decision. The teaching director was so afraid that he broke out in cold sweat after he finished listening to the recording. The principal looked at Nalan Lan and said, "What else do you want to say?" Nalan Lan groaned, turning her head to the side. "Since this is the case, well, just expel her." The principal said, "He Chioji, the same goes for you. Two of you should return to pack up your things and leave the academy. From now on, you both are not students of this academy. Go back now to pack." Nalan Lan took the lead and walked out. When she walked past Sima Yuyu, she glared at her hatefully. He Chioji saw how things were already set and could only leave feeling unreconciled. "As for you, you're the teaching director, but you don't know how to handle things impartially. Because of your impartial judgment, you are suspended for a year. During this period of time, someone will take charge in your place. You should go home and properly reflect," the principal said to the teaching director. The teaching director wanted to explain himself, but once he saw how strict the principal was, he swallowed his words and turned to leave. Sima Yu touched her nose. This issue was resolved just like that. No matter what, this Nalan Lan had been expelled, so her first goal had been reached. Right now, only Sima Yuyu, Sima Yulu, Feng Zhixing, and the principal remained inside the house. When he saw that Sima Yuyu's mind was wandering, the principal humphed, causing Sima Yuyu to recover her thoughts. Sima Yuyu saw that the principal was looking at her, so she quickly stood straight, as if she was a model student. "What's the point of acting obedient now?" The principal saw the way Sima Yuyu was acting and said, "Did you know that if I had not acted out today, you would be expelled today? You actually dare to harm another student. You really are brave." Sima Yuyu grinned. "Wasn't it because I knew that principal would intervene that I acted this way?" "You knew?" The principal raised his eyebrows in shock. "That's right. You were watching from the window for such a long time. You definitely would not have let things become too serious." Sima Yuyu said, "You knew that I was watching from here?" The principal and Feng Zhixing looked at each other. It was expected that Feng Zhixing would realize because he was of an unknown strength. But how come Sima Yu would also know that he was watching? That's right, when Master Feng and the rest had arrived at the plaza, you were standing here already, Sima Yu said definitively. From the very beginning, she had felt someone watching her from here, someone who was able to watch her from this place. Who else could it be if not the principal? She was an assassin in her previous life and was especially sensitive towards this kind of gazes. Furthermore, she was most talented in concealing herself and discovering others. She had managed to feel the principal's barely concealed gaze immediately. That's why you came up with this kind of idea, in order to make me intervene? The principal said. Sima Yu nodded. The teaching director had hardened his heart to protect Nalan Lan. Only you would be able to shake him, however. You remained here watching the drama without showing yourself, so I had no choice. Sima Yu said with a face full of lamentation. But speaking up to this point, if I had been slightly more rash or had moved slight quickly, or if I had accidentally slipped, looking at how the principal's face turned blacker and blacker. Sima Yu's voice also became softer and softer in the end. Her voice was barely a whisper as she finally swallowed her words. I promised your grandfather that I would account to him with regards to this situation. I didn't expect it that you would use murder to force it out. Right now, this can be considered to be fair to you. You can do whatever you want in the academy and I won't care. But the Nalan clan will not be easily provoked. Right now, your family and theirs are back on par. When you do things, please be more alert. The principal said. Her secret plans had been exposed. Sima Yu was a bit embarrassed and laughed awkwardly. The principal waved his hands, saying, the two of you go down. I have some things to speak to Master Feng about. Yes, principal. Sima Yu and Sima Yulu came out and looked at each other. They immediately laughed. Sima Yula touched the cold sweat that beaded on his forehead, saying, I never thought you would dare to do this kind of things in front of so many people. It was even more unexpected that the principal did not pursue it. You really want to scare me to death. Hey, who asked that teaching director to be so hateful? Sima Yu placed a hand on Sima Yu's shoulder, saying, however, their pampered princess has been expelled. It looks like that Nalan clan will not let this matter go. I'm just afraid that they will go look for trouble with grandfather. This is a possibility. Sima Yulu nodded. They'll go home now to explain today's happenings to grandfather and tell him to be more careful. Alright, then he'll trouble you, fourth brother. What are you thanking me for? Who asked me to be your fourth brother? I'm going off first. Sima Yulu patted Sima Yu's shoulder and left with large strides. Sima Yu watched him leave and laughed languidly. She had caused such a major event, but he had not even scolded her at all. Having this kind of family was really a blessing. When she pushed open the main door to the dormitory, she saw that Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi were sitting in the pavilion watching and waving at her. She walked over and sat down, saying, What are you guys doing here? Waiting for you. Fatty Chu said. Did the principal make things hard for you? Nope. Sima Yu said. That's good. Fatty Chu let out a breath. He was afraid that Sima Yu would also be expelled. If that happened, he would not have any more good food to eat. What do you plan to do next? He Kaji and her friend will probably leave the capital. Wei Ziqi asked. I don't have to raise my hand against He Chou Ji. The Nalan clan will definitely not let her off. Sima Yu said. Right now, Nalan Lan has been expelled. In the future, it will be an issue between the Nalan clan and my Sima clan. You need to be careful of Nalan Lan's younger brother. Nalan Chi. Wei Ziqi cautioned. Yes, I will. Sima Yu said, from now I need to make use of every opportunity to cultivate and then go complete the mission with you all. Chapter 63. Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi still thought of dissuading her, but she looked extremely resolute, forcing them to swallow their words. Have a good time cultivating them. We'll head off together when the time comes. Wei Ziqi patted Sima Yu's shoulder before walking out. Yup. Rest assured, I will definitely protect you. Fatty Chu also left after declaring this. Sima Yu closed the door and smiled when she thought of how Fatty Chu declared that he would protect her. Although she had been framed by her organization's second in charge, she did not carry on those bitter feelings to think that everyone in this world was a bad guy. She still subconsciously believed her own ability to discern. She could tell that Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi honestly treated her as a friend. But she also knew that because of her contract with the Spirit Pearl, She would subconsciously leak out a kind of aura that caused those with a similar spirit to her to draw near to her. When Sima Yu returned to the general's residence, she related everything that happened to Sima Lai. Once Sima Lai heard that the Nalan clan had attempted to kill Sima Yu, he broke the desk in anger. He gritted his teeth and said, "This Nalan clan has always set itself against my clan, but it has actually dared to scheme against Yu. It seems that we have been too lenient on them recently. In any case, that Nalan Lan has already been expelled from the academy, and if we assume that they will continue their style of doing things, I'm afraid that they will not let fifth brother nor our family off the hook," Sima Yula said. "What's there to worry about? They won't let us off the hook, but neither do I intend to let them off." Sima Yuming's voice came in from the outside. Sima Yulu watched as Sima Yuming walked in and asked, "Second brother, you've returned?" "Yup, I just came back when I heard you relate what happened." Sima Yuming said that Nalan clan could go cause trouble for fifth brother at any time. "Grandfather, since we have already promised the other party that we will take care of fifth brother well, we can't let him be caught up in such danger now." Sima Lai nodded. "Grandfather, second brother, what are you guys talking about?" Sima Yula heard the conversation between the two of them and looked at them in surprise. Sima Lai and Sima Yuming only now remembered that Sima Yulu was still here and recalled that he did not know about Sima Yuyu's identity. They didn't expect that they would be furious to such an extent that they would even forget about this. Sima Yuming patted Sima Yule's shoulder, saying meaningfully, "Actually, fifth brother isn't our brother by blood. What did you say?" Sima Yulu had been so shocked by this piece of news that he started to shake all over, staring at Sima Yuming with disbelief. "What I said is true," Sima Yuming said. "You were still very young in the year that fifth brother arrived at our home. That's why it's to be expected that you don't remember this. Fifth brother actually isn't our brother by blood." Sima Yulu repeated this fact to himself twice over before raising his head to ask Sima Lai, "Then who are the parents of fifth brother?" "We are also not sure who his mother is. Our Sima clan had always owed his father a favor. At that time, they handed him over to us before they disappeared, so we are also unclear what his real identity is," Sima Lai said. "At that time when the Sima clan had just arrived in the small place, they encountered some danger, and it just so happened that Sima Yuyu's father saved them. At that time they said that in the future, if they had the chance to, they would repay him. Who would have thought that a few tens of years later, he found them and passed Sima Yuyu to them, even telling them not to let anyone know that Sima Yuyu was a girl. At that time, only Sima Lai remained of the Sima clan in order to protect Sima Yuyu. Sima Lai even told everyone outside that Sima Yuyu was brought back by his own son. Actually, at that time, his son had already disappeared for a few years. It had to be noted that Sima Yuyu's parents as well Sima Yule's parents both encountered the similar situation of disappearing. At least this point was consistent. At that time, Sima Yulu was still really young, so he didn't remember. However, Sima Yuqi, Sima Yuming and Sima Yuran all knew that Sima Yuyu was not their brother by birth. However, they still never treated him as an outsider, as continued to treat him with as much love as the youngest of the family of the Sima clan. Sima Yula looked at his own grandfather, then looked at his brother. They didn't look as if they were lying, so he started to slowly digest this information. "Grandfather, at that time, the person saved the life of our Sima clan, so today we must not watch as others harm fifth brother," Sima Yuming declared resolutely. "That Nalan clan has always been looking for something to cripple our family. You should arrange for a shadow guard to surround the school compound to protect you secretly once he leaves the school grounds. We cannot let the Nalan clan cause any harm to him," Sima Lai said. "As for within the school, I believe that Feng Xixing will not allow even a single hair on him to be harmed." "Oh yeah, what kind of identity does that Feng Xixing possess?" Sima Yula questioned curiously. Sima Lai shook his head. "I don't know either. I had asked that old coot in the school before, but even he doesn't know Feng Xixing's true identity. He only knows that he must be someone from another place. Furthermore, he's here because of Yuyu, because of fifth brother?" Feng Xixing said. "You carried a life jade. A life jade is not something that just anybody can possess. The people who do possess it are normally those from the large clans. Furthermore, it has to be left in the family's ancestral hall. The fact that Yuyu has a life jade that actually isn't placed in her ancestral hall and was actually brought out by her father shows that her identity isn't simple. Neither is it safe." Talking about Sima Yuyu's life jade, Sima Yulu and his brother thought of the time when Sima Yuyu had gone missing for those few months and they had to rely on the perfect state of the life jade in order to stay sane. It looks like this world doesn't have people who even know about something like a life jade, Sima Yulu said. That's right. The people of this world don't know how to make this at all, Sima Lyle said. They don't even have the materials to make it, much less have the strength to do it, so fifth brother's identity must be from somewhere outside of this world. Sima Yuming asked, this is just my guess, Sima Lai said. However, at that time, Feng Zhixing said something when he came here to look at Yu Yu's life jade at that time. He said that he was there when Yu Yu's life jade was being made. This proves that he must also be from that place, and so he knows Yu Yu's identity. Then will he tell fifth brother's identity to him or not? Sima Yuming knitted his eyebrows in question. Not right now, Sima Lai said. Looking at the way he is, he's just here to see how Yu Yu is living. He's not here to tell him about the reality of his situation. Hearing what Sima Lai said, Sima Yuming and Sima Yula both sighed. Even if Sima Yu wasn't their brother by birth, they had lived their lives together for so many years that they had the same brotherly affection as real brothers. They did not wish for anyone to disrupt their current life. All right, enough. Yulu, you should return to school. Yuming and I will discuss how to deal with that Nalan clan. Sima Lai said, okay. If you need me to do anything, please tell me. I'm also a part of this Sima clan. Sima Yulu said seriously, your responsibility right now is to cultivate properly and watch over fifth brother in school. That is enough. Sima Yuming patted Sima Yula's shoulder. Okay then. I will return first. Sima Yula shrugged and left the study room. When they watched Sima Yula leave, Sima Yuming turned to Sima Lai and asked, Grandfather, how do you plan to deal with the Nalan clan? Chapter 64. News of the expulsion of Nalan Lan, the female genius of the Nalan clan, from the Imperial Academy had spread like wildfire across the entire capital. A single stone causing 1,000 waves. Every single street was discussing this Nalan clan in the hall. The head of the Nalan clan sat on his seat with 2 elders sitting at each side. Everyone else sat at either side in the middle of the house. Nalan Lan was clad in blue as she sat on the ground with her head lowered, her long hair cascaded down her back, covering her cheek. Nalan Chi also knelt at a side. Looking at the rising tension that locked them in a stalemate, he said, Father, you cannot blame elder sister for this. It's all because of Sima Yu. If not for him, elder sister would not have been expelled from school. You still dare to speak. Nalan slammed the teacup in his hand on the table and looked at Nalan Lan and Nalan Chi, who were kneeling, and berated. You knew that this kind of things were not allowed in the premises of the academy, but you just had to do it. Now that you've been expelled, you've thrown away the face of the entire Nalan clan. Nalan Lan lowered her head, not daring to utter a single word. Clan head. Laner never thought that things would become like this. She thought that that trash would die simple, but who would have thought that he would survive and come back? An elder at the side said, Laner just wanted to strike at that old coot Sima Lai. Didn't you see when that waste went missing, we were really able to seize the opportunity to strike at that Sima clan. That's right. Clan head. Laner is such a gifted child. Just because we don't have the academy, does it mean that the Nalan clan will be unable to train the younger generation? Yet another elder helped speak on behalf of Nalan Lan. But this matter of being expelled by the school has caused how much embarrassment to our clan. We can't let this go unpunished. You are now confined to the family ancestral hall to devote yourself to repentance for 3 months. You better reflect on your actions thoroughly. After listening to the 2 elders absolve his own daughter of guilt, Nalan Lan was more relaxed and gave Nalan Lan a very superficial punishment. Nalan Lan bowed slightly before standing up to leave. From the beginning to the end, she did not utter a single word. Everyone thought that she was in shock by the situation. However, her eyes revealed hatred and malice. Once she was released from the ancestral hall, she would definitely take the life of that useless trash. After Nalan Lan left, the elder waved his hand to dismiss the younger generation since they had no need to participate in the later conversation. Clan head. This time, the Sima clan is directly shedding all pretense of cordiality. The second elder said, This time, that Sima clan has caused us great disgrace. We definitely have to take revenge on them. Nalan gritted his teeth and said, It just so happens that when we went to visit the old ancestor, he also said that we should quickly cause their family to fall. Since that's the case, we should quickly make use of all our networks. After understanding what the old ancestor meant, the first and second elder nodded simultaneously. The Sima clan had always wanted to suppress the Nalan clan. This time, They would definitely need to take the Sima clan down. As a result, the feud between these two clans and moved from the shadows and started to be displayed on stage for all to see regardless of the domain. The two clans would always fight as if it was a you live I die kind of situation, with regards to their unrestrained battles, even while in school. Sima Yu knew of a few, however. Sima Lai had ordered her to stay in school and did not allow her to come out, so she could only stay in school to work hard and become stronger. For a month after that, Sima Yu remained inside the Spirit Pearl to practice pill refinement. Before, she had already almost mastered pill purification. After practicing for a few more days, she set her sights on the second stage, fusion. This time, during fusion, Sima Yu chose the easiest pill to practice, the coagulation pill. This coagulation pill only need 4 kinds of ingredients. Furthermore, they were relatively milder ingredients and the chances of exploding would be relatively smaller with higher chances of success. It was an introductory pill that was generally used by alchemists. After letting Little Spirit finish preparing the spirit ingredients, Sima Yu went to look over the steps of refining the pill once again to make sure she had memorized it all before she began to purify the ingredients. The most important step of pill refinement was purification, and she was already extremely familiar with this step, so she very quickly finished purifying all 4 ingredients. She separated the purified ingredients according to type before placing 2 into the pill furnace. After a while, she placed yet another type inside, thinking back on how things exploded the last time. Sima Yu had some lingering fear when she put the pill ingredients in. She was extremely nervous that putting the ingredients in would cause the same occurrence as the last time. However, the pill ingredients this time could be said to have given her more face, as nothing like an explosion occurred, allowing her heave a huge sigh of relief. Following the directions from the book, she controlled the intensity of the flame. At this moment, she realized that not having your own flame was really a troublesome thing for pill concoction. After a few more minutes, Sima Yu finally added in the last most important pill ingredient, and it was still good this time. Nothing like an explosion occurred, however. Just when she thought that she was successful, a grunting sound came from inside the furnace, followed by a puff. A pasty smell leaked out from the hole in the pill furnace cover, declaring her failed attempt at fusion. Sima Yu put out the fire before opening the cover of the pill furnace. As she expected, she saw a dark black pasty sludge and could not help but to heave a sigh of disappointment. Yu, do not be disappointed. This is merely your first time. Failure is extremely normal. You just need more experience. Little Roar appeared beside her and comforted her. "I'm not disappointed." Sima Yu shook her head and said, "I was just thinking that refining pills was really not an easy task." Of course, Little Spirit also appeared in the air and said, "My previous owner told me before that just looking at the steps to refining pills was not easy, but there is a reason why it has obstructed so many thousands of spirit masters when refining pills. Every single minute of heat control and every single step of control needs to be precious. Further, its requirement on spirit power can be said to be found only 1 in 1,000. It looks like I can't do without instruction from a teacher." Sima Yu touched her chin and began to think of who she should choose to teach her. However, she had gone through the list of pill masters in her brain without managing to find anyone suitable. They're all so repulsive. I wouldn't be able to learn much from them. Thinking of how all those pill masters always had their nose in the air, Sima Yu had rejected all of them. If those pill masters knew that they were treated by someone with such disdain, who knew whether or not they would be hopping about in anger. Forget it, I might as well try to practice on my own first. When that time comes that I meet a good pill master, then I'll think about how to hail him as a master. Sima Yu finished speaking before she took yet another pill ingredient to begin practicing once again. 3 days later, she finally managed to fuse her first liquid pill. Now it's time for the last step, binding. Sima Yu let out a long breath before putting her hand before the pill furnace, condensing her spirit power and sending it gently into the pill furnace. Bang! Once the spirit power came into contact with the liquid pill, it resulted in a huge explosion. The pill furnace directly exploded, sending splinters flying about everywhere. Sima Yu had also been sent flying by the explosion. Damn it! It exploded again. Before she fainted, in her daze she saw a faintly discernible red silhouette appear by her side, as well as a pair of complicated eyes stare directly at her. Chapter 65. Pain. As Sima Yu's consciousness slowly withdrew, pain was the first thing she felt. Yu's awake. Little Roar's voice sounded from beside her. "Yup, it looks like she's awake. Little spirit, arrogant yet tender voice sounded, but why hasn't Master opened her eyes yet? Ling Long's worried voice came from the direction of Sima Yuyu's chin. Ling Long, you shouldn't lie down on Yuyu's stomach. You'll squash her and make her unable to wake up. Little Roar flew over, picking Ling Long up. Ling Long moved and threw off Little Roar's claws, falling on Yiguang's back, hatefully glaring at Little Roar. Master should have already regained her consciousness. Yiguang took a sniff at Sima Yuyu's body as he said. Ling Long took a look at the transparent silhouette at the side before pursing her lips to say, "Hey, we can take care of Master. What is a guy like you running out for? Whoa, don't tell me you've taken a fancy to Yuyu?" Little Roar started to roar dangerously at Mo Sha. "I'll say it first, Yuyu is ours, you better not snatch her from us." Mo Sha glanced coolly over these few beasts. Without taking any notice of them, he put all his attention over Sima Yuyu's body, his eyes containing traces of serene and hidden meaning. Little Roar looked at Mo Sha, then looked at Sima Yuyu. What was this guy looking at Yuyu for? Something was up. Sima Yuyu heard Little Roar and the rest quarrel incessantly beside her ear and felt that her brain was going to explode. However, she was unable to open her eyes. "Just wait for me to get up, I'll teach you all a lesson." Sima Yuyu could not help but think. Although she could not open her eyes, her thoughts were completely clear. Her current nerves was also exceptionally sensitive, so every single pain on her body was amplified by multiple times. Just as she felt that she was going to faint from the pain, a ka-cha sound echoed beside her body, followed by an ice-cold aura that came from her lower abdomen out to her forelimbs and the rest of her body. The scorching pain subsided following that aura and finally disappeared. That aura circled a few times before returning to her lower abdomen, finally staying still. Sima Yuyu slowly opened her eyes and could not longer see the silhouettes of Little Roar and the rest. It was probably that they saw she was fine and then ran off to play. "Master, you're awake." Yiguang saw that Sima Yuyu had woken up and said anxiously. Sima Yuyu sat up. The first one she looked at was not Yiguang, but Mo Sha, who was seated at the side. "How come this guy was out?" She kneaded her forehead, saying, "Yiguang, how long was I unconscious?" "You weren't unconscious for long. In half a day you regained your consciousness. However, after regaining your consciousness, you slept for another 2.5 days, so it's been about 3 days, Yiguang answered from the side. 3 days? Sima Yuyu looked at Yiguang in shock. She made sure that he was not exaggerating as she started to mutter incessantly in her heart. She had felt that only a little while had passed. How had it been 3 days? At this moment, she finally noticed her hands. They were smooth and without scars, just like in the past. She remembered that when the pill stove exploded, the flying splinters had gashed a long red wound. How come it was gone? Healed. Mo Sha suddenly opened his mouth in reply. Sima Yuyu's astonished gaze turned towards Mo Sha. The sentence was him telling her that the wound on her hand had been healed? Very surprised? Mo Sha looked at Sima Yuyu. "It's not just the wound on your hand that has healed, the other wounds on the rest of your body have also healed." Sima Yuyu touched the wounds on her body and realized that they did not hurt anymore. "How come?" Sima Yuyu concealed her outward surprise, looking at Mo Sha to ask, "Was it you who healed me?" Mo Sha shook his head, saying, "You did it, me?" Sima Yuyu pointed at herself doubtfully. It was obvious she didn't believe what Mo Sha said. "Master, it really was you who healed yourself," Yiguang said from the side. "When you were unconscious, your wounds started getting better one by one at that time." All of us were really shocked. It was really me? Sima Yuyu still felt that this was too incredible. However, Yiguang was a very honest one. He would not lie to its own owner. It had already said that she was the one who had healed it, so it should be the truth. But when did she gain such an awesome natural ability? Just as she was daydreaming, Mo Sha suddenly drifted over, landing in front of Sima Yuyu, giving her a huge fright. "What are you doing?" Seeing this suddenly enlarged face, although it was very attractive, it would still scare a person. "Okay. There's a problem with your body." Mo Sha sniffed at Sima Yuyu's body and said coldly. Sima Yuyu saw that Mo Sha was looking at her as if she was some kind of prey and unconsciously tried to push him. However, her hand went through his body. "What problem do I have? Isn't it just that I have some intrepid natural ability? You're the one who has a problem." Mo Sha left Sima Yuyu and said, "A seal has been placed on your body." "Seal? What kind of seal?" Sima Yuyu stood up and bent her head to look down at her body, but she didn't see anything out of the ordinary. "Have you seen any person that's been injured in an explosion, but even without eating any pills, they were able to recover in 2 days? Mo Sha said, "It appears that I haven't." Sima Yuyu said, "Have you had this experience before?" Mo Sha asked again. Sima Yu sifted through her memories but shook her head. In the past, this body would get wounded frequently, but she always had to rely on pills in order to recover. She really never went through this kind of experience before. Don't tell me that my natural ability has something to do with the seal? Sima Yu looked at Mo Sha and asked. During the moment of explosion, I felt a familiar aura. Mo Sha said, I'm trying to ascertain whether or not it is that, but you always remained unconscious, so I had no way of doing so. How would you ascertain it? Sima Yu asked. Also, what does this matter about the seal? You have to let me check first before I can answer your question, Mo Sha said. You have to first tell me what method you are going to use to check. Sima Yu looked at Mo Sha distrustfully. But this big devil, if he wanted to play any tricks, he could sell her and she would still be able to fetch him some money. I will enter your body, Mo Sha said. The moment Sima Yu heard it, she got angry and shouted at him. I knew it. You would definitely have some kind of warped idea. If I let you enter my body, what if you seize control? What if you harm my body? I would definitely not agree to something like this. Mo Sha never expected that Sima Yu would have such a big reaction and said, I won't harm you. Pooey. There's no way I would believe that. Sima Yu said, I've done my research. The books say that devils are the least trustworthy. You'll say now that you won't harm me, but what if you go back on your words after you enter my body? I don't want to do it. Mo Sha looked at the way Sima Yu was looking at him disdainfully, and he was enraged. A vortex started to form around him. What? I've guessed too accurately. Now you want to kill me to silence me? This place is my territory. Sima Yu shouted at Mo Sha. The aura surrounding Mo Sha gradually subsided and eventually became like before. If it wasn't for the fact that the surrounding area was no longer the same, Sima Yu would not have been able to tell that he had gotten angry. It's impossible for me to harm you, because we've already established contract. Mo Sha said this sentence slowly, successfully rooting Sima Yu to the spot in shock. Chapter 66. Contract? Mo Sha nodded, confirming that it was true. At that time, why didn't I feel that we had entered a contract? Sima Yu felt it was strange and asked, because I blocked it. Mo Sha said. Sima Yu scrutinized this Mo Sha and was secretly fearful, being able to block the contract between two people such that she was unable to feel a thing even if she had only been in this world for a short period of time. She knew that this was something that was practically impossible. However, he had done it. Furthermore, it was done when he was still an incomplete spirit. How terrifying was he in his past life? However, the stronger he is, I believe, the more things he will know how to do. Sima Yu contemplated in her heart. If he has established a contract with me, wouldn't I have an overwhelming advantage? Who knows? I may even be able to gain much more things from him. Mo Sha noticed that Sima Yu's eyes were turning and knew that she had thought of some warped idea yet again. However, he could not be bothered with it and closed his eyes for a while before opening them to look at her, saying, Enough. Sima Yu felt it for a moment, then realized she really had another connection with Mo Sha. When did we establish a contract? She still felt it was incredulous when she asked. The other party was a devil, furthermore, was in a spirit state. How did they form a contract with each other? When you broke the illusion array, I don't know how you entered into a contract with the spirit stone. Since I lived in there, of course I entered into a contract with you as well. Mo Sha's face blackened considerably when he thought of this. In any case, will you let me go and check now? They'll take a look at what this seal is. Talking about the seal on her body, Sima Yu also became more serious, who knew that her body would actually have some weird thing. She didn't know what the seal was for, who gave it to her and why she had it. Come then. She nodded towards Mo Sha. She didn't know how he planned to enter her body and was going to ask when Mo Sha turned into a kind of black ray, shooting into the space between her eyebrows. At the moment he entered, Sima Yu felt a biting chill and unconsciously broke out into shivers. How is this guy's temperature so cold? Sima Yu could not help but jest. If he doesn't come out soon, he'll turn into an ice cube after more than a little while. Just before Sima Yu's body reached its limit, Mo Sha came out from between her eyebrows. The moment he left, the freezing cold also left with him. How is it? What is that seal? Sima Yu noticed that Mo Sha was looked at her with a complicated expression and asked. Seeing how he refused to answer, she said, Don't tell me that a bomb is sealed within my body? Not a bomb, but something like it. Mo Sha had followed Sima Yu for such a long time that he knew what she was talking about when she said the word bomb. It's really a bomb. Sima Yu's expression was wrecked with grief. I was just randomly spouting guessing. Who knew that I would guess it? I said that it wasn't a bomb. Mo Sha said, fine, no matter what it is, I still have to know what it is. Sima Yu pursed her lips, saying, say it, what is sealed within my body? Light devil body physique. When Mo Sha said this, his voice trembled slightly as if he was quite agitated. Sima Yu had been shocked by his 3 words, so she didn't notice his agitation. What is a light devil body physique? Why is it sealed? If it was not sealed, I'm afraid that your body would have exploded when you were 2 or 3 years old. So terrifying? Sima Yu attempted to find a word that would properly describe its extent, but failed. Then what is it exactly? This world is separated into light and darkness. You should know this, right? Mo Sha looked at Sima Yu. Don't I just have to look at you to know? Sima Yu felt that Mo Sha would talk for a long time, so she casually took out a chair from her interspatial ring, sitting down to listen slowly. Mo Sha looked at what Sima Yu did and could not help but turn his face completely black. This brat was just incomparably worried just seconds ago, but she was now taking out a chair to sit down and listen? People from the world of light have a physique that will only be found after a few 100,000 years. This kind of physique actually contains a kind of aura. This aura will let them cultivate at speeds that surpass normal spirit masters by more than a few times. Furthermore, their bottlenecks are few. As a result, they have very strong abilities to recover. This kind of body is called a light body physique. So powerful. Sima Yu's mouth opened wide in shock. If one managed to encounter this kind of body, wouldn't this be super ultra out of this world? On the other hand, in the dark world, those with dark auras are termed devil body physiques. If one was able to use one of the 2 types, to the average person, this would be seen as an extremely fortuitous event. Mo Sha said, however, you are not the same as them. You said I possess a light devil body physique. Don't tell me that you're saying I have both kinds? Sima Yu said. Mo Sha gave her an appraising look, saying straightforwardly, that's right, you have both kinds of auras in your body. One represents the light while one represents the darkness. Both are at odds with each other, but they now reside in one body. What do you think will happen? Furthermore, at that time, you were just a baby. You would have been killed with even a little bit of shock. No wonder it has to be sealed, Sima Yu said. After that, she thought about something and looked straight at Mo Sha, asking, now that the seal has been broken, won't I be 100 dead? Not for the time being, Mo Sha replied. However, this doesn't mean that you want in the future. Sima Yu looked at Mo Sha and beamed, saying, you definitely have a way to deal with it, right? Mo Sha raised his eyebrows. How are you so sure? Since we've had a contract, if I die, you also wouldn't be able to live on. However, you don't look worried at all, Sima Yu declared assuredly. Anyway, you managed to recognize right away that I have a light devil body physique. So you definitely have seen experience like this before, or you are one, or you have encountered one before. The way Mo Sha looked at Sima Yu changed a lot in a moment. He never expected that this brat would actually have a brain. Your lordship knows that his charm is hard to contain, but you still don't have to look at me like that. Sima Yu pinched her non-existent fringe and pretended to show off, causing Mo Sha to roll his eyes. You still haven't said what kind you are. Sima Yu said, I was like you. In the past, Mo Sha said this sentence slowly. Although Sima Yu had guessed it, hearing it from Mo Sha himself still gave her a bit of surprise. Then how did you turn into someone from the Devil Clan? Mo Sha glanced over at Sima Yu before looking in the distance, saying, when I was young, I was also a human. I didn't grow up in the Devil Clan. Sima Yu looked at Mo Sha and felt waves of hurt coming from her own body. Chapter 67. Sima Yu had been given a huge shock by Mo Sha's words. He wasn't a person from the Devil Clan. So how did he end up this way? Then how did you end up in the Devil Clan? Looking at the way Mo Sha was, she was unable to control her curiosity. Mo Sha was only melancholic for a while before he quickly regained his original mood, replying, my father was a human, my mother was from the Devil Clan, so technically devil blood flowed through my body. So this why you ended up with a light devil body. Sima Yu nodded her head with understanding. If his father was a human, his body would not possibly have any dark aura. Thinking up to this point, her heart started to fluster. Didn't this mean that one of her parents wasn't human? Your current situation is similar to mine from the past. Now that the seal has been opened, it actually doesn't threaten you that much. In fact, it is even a good thing. Mo Sha was clearly no longer talking about himself as he looked at Sima Yu and said, Now the two auras that you have are the stage at which you can control them, so they won't explode within your body. However, the light devil body physique will cause your cultivation speed to be several times higher than others. Your innate skill has already been several notches above other average people, and now you will be even more powerful. Really? Sima Yu's eyes shone as she looked at Mo Sha. If he wasn't just in spirit form, she might have even really ran over to give him a hug and a huge kiss. You shouldn't be happy too soon. Mo Sha saw the way she was acting and could not help but to rain on her parade. Just as your strength increases, the conflict between the two auras present will also increase. If you are unable to control it when that time comes, you will be in danger. When he said this, Sima Yu was not too worried. In any case, don't you have a way to solve it? Since you managed to survive at that time, you'll be able to survive too. This simple yet confident statement caused Mo Sha's heart to shudder. At that time, he himself was just a young, frivolous kid. He was also full of confidence. When he found out that he possessed a light devil body physique, he also believed he would be able to survive. When the time came, he really did survive. It was just that the process of it was quite painful. Oh right, what's the method that you talked about? Sima Yu looked up and asked. There's no point telling you about this now, Mo Sha said coolly. Pretending again, Sima Yu curled her lip. However, even if she continued to question him, if this guy really had no plans to talk, he really would not budge an inch. Anyway, she believed right now that he wouldn't harm her, and Mo Sha pretended not to hear anything that Sima Yu said, asking, all right, I've explained to you the circumstances regarding your body. Now let me talk about something else. There's something else? Pill refinement explosion, Mo Sha said languidly. This? Sima Yu raised her eyebrows. I also don't know why. During pill refinement it keeps exploding, although I clearly followed all the steps on this book. I was watching you refine pills. Your actual skills can still be deemed passable, but the problem comes from your control over the fire, Mo Sha explained. Every pill, every stage has a different degree of fire. Even a little difference can cause your pill refinement to fail. You know how to refine pills? Sima Yu raised her eyebrows in surprise. From the way he was talking, he didn't seem like an amateur at all. I do, Mo Sha admitted. What rank? You will know in the future, Mo Sha replied. In any case, it's high enough to guide you. Tisk. Sima Yu rolled her eyes at him. This guy really liked to act mysterious. If you don't tell me, then how will I know whether or not you really know how? Mo Sha creased his eyebrows, saying unhappily, if you don't want to learn, then forget it. Hey, I didn't say I didn't want to learn. Sima Yu saw that Mo Sha was quite done with dealing with her and beamed. If you don't want to say it, then fine. In any case, we're now on the same boat. If I become stronger, I'll be able to help you find your other half more efficiently. I also don't have to worry about you taking advantage of me. Mo Sha looked down as if he was closing his eyes in contemplation. Him being willing to teach her how to refine pills was not without personal motives enough. They'll tell you about the basics of pill refinement. After listening to Mo Sha's explanation, Sima Yu was able to understand pill refinement even more. It turns out that pill refinement really wasn't as easy as she thought. Those 3 steps may have seemed easy, but they held tens and millions of other points. If even one of them was wrong, one was unable to become a pill master. No wonder there are so many spirit masters but so few alchemists. Sima Yu touched her chin. All these things require a certain prerequisite. Mo Sha said, what prerequisite? Sima Yu asked. A very strong mental strength. After Mo Sha finished speaking, he gave Sima Yu a once-over. Her mental strength could be said to be the strongest he had ever seen amongst his peers. If she didn't have such a huge amount of mental strength, he would never have thought of teaching her a very strong mental strength. When refining pills, you need to use your mental strength to control it, especially for higher grade pills where refinement is even more complex. It is extremely taxing on your mental strength. The stronger your mental strength, the easier and further your walk will be on the road to pill refinement, Mo Sha explained. So this is the case. Sima Yu clutched both hands to her head, leaned on the back of her chair, looked towards Mo Sha and asked, aren't you someone from the Devil Clan? How do you know how humans refine pills? Humans and the Devil Clan have the same methods of pill refinement, it's just that the fusing process is a bit different, Mo Sha said. When humans are at the last stages of pill refinement, they need to inject spirit power of the light attribute, while those of the Devil Clan inject spirit power of the dark attribute. For some of the same types of pills, if someone of the Devil Clan eats the pill with light spirit power injected, that pill will become poisonous instead. Vice versa, humans can't Eat pills that are imbued with dark spirit power. Understand? Sima Yu nodded. Place the spirit stone on your forehead, Mo Sha said. Sima Yu did not know what he wanted to do, but she followed his instructions. She took the spirit stone and placed it on her forehead. Once her forehead came into contact with the spirit stone, a brilliant ray of light shot out from the spirit stone. After that, information was poured in through the space between her eyebrows. This is a way of strengthening one's mental power. You just have to follow what it says and practice in order to increase your mental power, Mo Sha said. Sima Yu closed her eyes to feel for a bit and realized that aside from Imperial Beast arts from before, there existed another book full of old auras in her consciousness, Secret of Soul Refinement. Sima Yu looked at the words on this book and her heart felt an indescribable tremor. She opened her eyes and looked at Mo Sha while asking, isn't it to train my mental strength? How come it's the secret to refining souls? The bigger your soul, the stronger your mental power, Mo Sha explained simply enough. Well, go to the pill refinement room now. You should practice making the pill you did before. I will stand beside you and instruct you. Okay. Hearing Mo Sha say it in this way, Sima Yu kept away all her questions and curiosities towards the secret of soul refinement and brought him to the alchemy room. She would slowly ask him all these questions in the future, right now. The proper thing to do was to learn how to refine pills. Chapter 68. Sima Yu set aside a few sets of the ingredients necessary to refine the coagulation pill under Mo Sha's careful watch. She purified each type as Mo Sha watched her refine. His eyes revealed traces of praise. She had not been practicing alchemy for long, however, her actions were very proficient. She appeared not only to have talent in alchemy but was also very hardworking and determined after refining the medicinal ingredients. Sima Yu looked to the side, towards Mo Sha. Put the ingredients into the pill furnace in order. I will tell you what to take note of at every step, Mo Sha said. Sima Yu sucked in a deep breath as she placed the purified ingredients successively into the pill furnace. Mo Sha would always voice out when it was time to place the second ingredient or time to control the fire, with Mo Sha giving directions. After half an hour, a pill with a faint medicinal smell slowly emerged. Okay, put out the fire, Mo Sha said. Sima Yu extinguished the fire that was under the pill furnace. In her heart, she complained that if she had her personal flames, it would not be so troublesome whenever she wanted to put out the fire. She opened the pill furnace and took out a pill from within. Although it appeared a little bit ugly, this was the first pill that she had successfully alchemized. Just thinking about it made her emotional. However, Mo Sha was not too satisfied with her end result, saying, let me refine it once. You should stand at my side and watch carefully. Oh, Sima Yu knew that this was Mo Sha's way of looking down on her final product. However, this did not influence the way she felt. She took out a jade pill bottle and placed the pill inside before standing to the side to watch how Mo Sha did it. Looking at how he stood in front of the pill furnace without moving, she touched her chin and thought, how does a spirit even do alchemy anyway? I will intentionally slow down my actions. You have to watch carefully. After Mo Sha said this, with a thought, a ball of black-colored flame appeared in his hand. He casually flung it and that flame flew to the bottom of the pill furnace. Once that pill furnace was hot, he placed the ingredients in to refine one by one. At the moment that the black flame appeared, Sima Yu felt a kind of terrifying temperature. However, she had been pressed down by that pressure. If not for the fact that her soul was a bit more sensitive, it would have been hard to discover it. She wanted to ask Mo Sha what kind of flame this was. However, once she saw that he only doing the refining process, she swallowed her question and seriously studied what he did. Although Mo Sha had intentionally slowed down his movements, he had only used half the time that she did to refine a pill. He took back his flame, then asked Sima Yu to take out the pill. Sima Yu quickly stepped forward, opening the cover with unparalleled excitement. Inside it lay pills that were perfectly round and smelled intoxicating. One could tell with a single look that it was more than a few times better than the pill that she had refined. All right, you should first digest the information that I told you and ponder over it on your own. After saying this, Mo Sha returned to the spirit stone before Sima Yu could even ask him about his black flame. Left in such a hurry, Sima Yu pursed her lips and thought to ask him the next time. She sat on a stool and closed her eyes. Mo Sha's earlier actions during his refinement of the pill played out before her eyes. After one day, Little Spirit smelled a fragrant scent and his eyes flashed. In a moment, he appeared at the alchemy room. Master, you successfully refined a pill? Sima Yu placed the pill that she had just made into her jade bottle and ignored Little Spirit's gluttonous appearance, saying, "Yep, just successfully refined one." "Haha. Didn't I say that you would definitely be able to become an alchemist?" Little Spirit laughed out happily and looked at Sima Yu as if he was looking at a precious child. Sima Yu threw the jade bottle into Little Spirit's hands, saying, "Tidy it up." After that, with a flash, she left the spirit pearl. Little Spirit saw that the alchemy room was in a complete mess and waved his little hand, returning the room to its original clean state. After that, he held the jade bottle gleefully and disappeared inside the house. Sima Yu sat cross-legged on the bed. In a moment, she opened her eyes and spat out a breath of muddy chi because the fatigue of alchemy just now had completely disappeared. Yu, while you were locked away these few days, Fatty Chu and the rest came to find you a few times. Little Roar saw that Sima Yu had woken up and said as it lay on the table, "Is anything wrong?" Sima Yu got down from the bed. "I don't know. They only wandered about by the gate for a while, then thought you were cultivating, so they didn't knock." Little Roar's tiny legs wiggled as it thought to flip over. However, it failed after trying a few times. Sima Yu walked over and bent her head down, stretching out a hand to help flip it over, saying indifferently, "You should dye it." She opened the door and left after saying it. Little Roar lay on the table watching Sima Yu's back, its eyes filled with tears as it howling with grief. "You're the one who made me fat in the past, but now you're ignoring me because I'm fat." Sima Yu walked out the room and just happened to see Ouyang Fei enter from outside. A faint scent of blood wafted from his body. "You're injured?" Ouyang Fei looked over at her without saying a word and returned to his own house. Sima Yu touched her nose. The pressure around this guy was comparatively lower today. Could he have been beaten up by someone? You've come out from seclusion?" Wei Ziqi came out from his own house and smiled towards Sima Yu. "Yeah." Sima Yu nodded. "Little Roar said that you guys came to find me during this period of time?" "Right, it has to do with our mission. We actually wanted to discuss some things with you. Seeing how there wasn't any activity while you were in your room, we didn't want to disturb you." Wei Ziqi said. "Did anything happen?" Sima Yu asked. "It's because our mission this time is a bit more difficult, so we decided to move out earlier. In any case, classes have stopped recently, so we were planning on waiting until you came out before moving." Wei Ziqi said quite apologetically. It was actually a collective thing, but they hadn't waited for Sima Yu to come out before making a decision so quick. Sima Yu was a little surprised, looking at the way Wei Ziqi was acting. She smiled and said, "It looks like I've ended up wasting everyone's journey time. Since this is the case, let me pack up a little and go back to let my grandfather know before going." "You don't have to rush," Wei Ziqi said. Looking at Ouyang Fei, "It looks like we can't go for the next 2 days. You can take your time to prepare." "All right, then I'll go back first and be back tomorrow," Sima Yu said. "Okay." Wei Ziqi nodded and watched as Sima Yu closed the door behind her. He suddenly thought of something and called out after her, "Oh right, during the time that you were in closed-door cultivation, that He Qiuji has been discovered dead in the city. The other party has acted so efficiently. It should have been done by the Nalan clan." Hearing news of He Qiuji's death, Sima Yu was not surprised. She knew that the Nalan clan would definitely not let her off. She waved to Wei Ziqi before turning to leave. Those who wished to harm her would die sooner or later, returning to the general's residence. Sima Yu looked for Sima Yu Lai to tell him about her need to leave for a period of time to complete a mission. At first, Sima Lai did not agree, however, in the face of her coaxing and pestering. He agreed reluctantly, watching her leave. He shouted to his maidservant, "Fifth young master wants to go out. Go and send some men to protect him." "Yes, Lord." The maidservant sent out the order and arranged for some people to guard him. Sima Yu stayed at home for that night and left on the morning of the second day to return back to school. After walked along a few streets, she entered a small alley. "Since you've come, why bother hiding?" Chapter 69. The person who had been following behind Sima Yu had initially been wondering what Sima Yu came to this side alley to do. It was only through listening to his words that the person realized he had brought him here intentionally. "I never expected that though you were trash, you were able to discover our presence." A man clad in black came out from behind a kind of shelter and looked coldly at Sima Yu. Another person came out from another alley, trapping Sima Yu inside this Ali, Sima Yu looked at the person who had just spoken and said, Nalan Chi, you're so weak but you still want to play at shadowing another person? Don't make me laugh. You trash, you're about to die but your mouth is still so sharp. Nalan Chi looked at Sima Yu with eyes that flashed with bloodthirst. You're the reason why my sister has been locked in solitude for a month. I definitely will have my revenge today. Want to kill me? Sima Yu was extremely familiar with things like bloodthirst. She laughed coldly. You think you can kill me? Haha, even without talking about the bodyguard behind you that is a first-ranked spirit master, I am a magnificent 8th-ranked spirit warrior. How could we be unable to defeat you, a mere waste who can't even sense spirit power? Nalan Chi looked at Sima Yu as if he was an idiot. We were unable to beat you to death the last time, but today we will definitely let you meet the King of Hell and let you have the true taste of fear right in front of my eyes. You've spoken well. I'd also like to let you have a true taste of fear right in front of my eyes. Since we have the same goal, why don't we stop wasting words and just get right into it? Sima Yu turned and ran right after she said this. You want to run? Grab him. Nalan Chi watched Sima Yu run and thought that he was going to escape. He wanted the person who was blocking the other alley to grab onto him. When that bodyguard saw Sima Yu run to him with such speed, he was thunderstruck. He never thought that this waste would actually run from the middle of the alley to the place right in front of him in but a few breaths. When he heard Nalan Chi's order, he began to condense his spirit power. Even while he was surprised, he did not forget to throw a spirit ball right at Sima Yu. When Sima Yu saw the spirit ball approaching her, she moved her body and ran a few large strides along the wall, dodging the trajectory of the spirit ball completely. Bang! The spirit ball detonated on the ground, creating an explosion of dust. When the bodyguard thought he had succeeded, Sima Yu's silhouette appeared from the wall. A dagger appeared in her hand as she sped in front of him, smiling maliciously. While he was surprised, she slashed at his neck before jumping away. The bodyguard felt a chill emanate from his heart when he saw Sima Yu's smile. He never expected that. Even before he could react, he felt his neck go numb and watched as his own blood spurted from his neck. Bang! His body fell backwards, right to the point of his death. He still did not understand how this person, who was rumored to be a waste, could manage to dodge his attack, and how did he move so quickly? Furthermore, how could that inexplicably dense murderous aura manage to appear on the body of a pampered little waste? Nalan Chi arrived at the edge of the dust cloud and waited for the dust to settle to see Sima Yu's corpse. He never expected that he would see Sima Yu's completely unharmed body standing in front of him instead. Further, behind Sima Yu was his own bodyguard lying dead on the group. You didn't die. He called out with shock. If he had taken the attack that was thrown by his bodyguard just now, he would have been seriously injured even if he had managed to survive. However, Sima Yu didn't even receive a single injury. How is this possible? Sima Yu smiled sinisterly. You're not dead yet, so how could I be? Even if you lucked out and managed to avoid it, you won't be so lucky this time. Nalan Chi began to gather his own spirit energy the moment he finished speaking. Actually, I didn't plan on taking your life so early. However, since you presented yourself to me, how could I not accept your goodwill? Sima Yu also began to condense her spirit energy as she spoke. Nalan Chi looked at Sima Yu and shouted in astonishment, "You're a spirit master." Sima Yu smiled in reply. Towards someone who had tried to kill her so many times, she would definitely not show any kindness. Nalan clan? Nalan Lan sat in her own house and her heart felt a bit restless, as if something bad was going to happen. Don't tell me that younger brother has really gone to look for Sima Yu to make trouble? Nalan Lan mumbled to herself. In the morning, Nalan Qi had come over to tell her that Sima Yu had returned home yesterday and would head to school today. He had planned to bring a few people with him to kill him on his way back. She had not agreed in the beginning. However, Nalan Qi had persisted and brought his bodyguard with him in the end and left. Ever since Nalan Chi had left, she felt her heart grow restless, worried that something would happen to him. However, thinking about how Sima Yu was just a waste, given the strength of Nalan Chi and the bodyguard, getting rid of him would only be a minor inconvenience. Thinking about things in this way, she managed to calm her heart. Sima Yu, I have a bit of regret that I am unable to take your life with my own hands. However, to die in the hands of my brother is the same thing. Thinking about how she had been expelled from the academy, Nalan Lan's hands balled into fists. At the alley, Sima Yu came beside Nalan Chi. Seeing how he had been charred by Sima Yu's spirit flame to such a sorry state, his eyes were full of fear and shock. She gave a kick, saying, "What are you so surprised for? Because I can cultivate?" Or because you never thought that you would lose so quickly? Nalan Chi blinked his eyes, unable to say a single word. He never thought that not only would Sima Yu be able to cultivate, but that he would also be so much stronger than himself. He did not know why, but when Sima Yu was using his spirit energy, moon and stars did not appear to show his rank. However, he could feel that he was at least the rank of a spirit lord. Looking at the murderous intent in his eyes, his heart started to fill with regret. If he had not brought people along to kill Sima Yu today, or if he had not overestimated himself and brought a few more people, he would not have met this end. I am someone who means what they say. Since I've said that I would take your life today, I can't let my words be empty. Sima Yu took out the dagger then Ling Long had transformed into, saying, "You were cruel in this life, but it was a pity that your strength was insufficient. I pray that you will not meet me in your next life." After saying this, she stabbed the dagger right into Nalan Chi's heart, thoroughly ending his life. In order to avoid the trouble that would come when others found Nalan Chi's corpse, she placed the bodies of Nalan Chi and his bodyguard into the spirit pearl and let Little Spirit take care of it. When Little Spirit saw the corpses that Sima Yu threw in, he clapped his little hands. The two bodies turned into dust and dispersed into the air. After this matter was settled, she walked out slowly from the alley and headed to school. Two people appeared in the alley later on. Looking at the bloodstains left on the ground, they looked at each other as their eyes flashed with unconcealed traces of shock. Fifth young master has actually killed off the opponent in such a short period of time. Looks like his strength isn't low at all. I will continue tailing fifth young master. You should return to the general's residence first to report what happened. Okay. After their conversation, the two of them split up and left. Sima Yu arrived at school even before she reached the dorm. She saw a person waiting at a quiet roadside. Chapter 70. Master Feng, what are you doing here? Sima Yu saw Feng Zhixing's silhouette, so she paused to ask. This was a little road that led to the living quarters and would rarely be used by others, especially since it was relatively early in the morning. There was nobody on the road. It was completely unexpected for Feng Zhixing to be waiting here for her. Waiting for you. Feng Zhixing looked at Sima Yu as he said indifferently, "Is there anything wrong?" Sima Yu saw how calm Feng Zhixing was, and so her disturbed and violent heart also gradually calmed down. Ouyang Fei came to find me yesterday to tell me that you all will be leaving the school today, Feng Zhixing said. Sima Yu didn't think that they would be leaving so quickly, but she thought of how she had already held them back by quite a few days, so Ouyang Fei and the rest must definitely be anxious. Yeah, they said that they wanted to leave a little earlier. She nodded her head. Their mission this time is the most difficult one. It also has the highest degree of danger. You have to take care of yourself, Feng Zhixing said. I will. Many thanks for your concern. If there is nothing else, I will take my leave first since they are still waiting for me. Sima Yu scratched her cheek as she smiled and explained, "Go then." Feng Zhixing waved his hands. Upon seeing Sima Yu leave, he mumbled, "She has the smell of blood. What has this girl done this time?" Master, are you able to rest assured, letting her do her mission together with those people? A voice sounded in the distance. What is there to be assured or not about? If she wants to go, then let her go. Experience is very good for increasing one's strength, Feng Zhixing said as he unhurriedly left the little road. When Sima Yu returned to the living quarters, the other four had already been prepared and were just waiting for her. Ziqi, didn't you say that we would be waiting for 2 days? How come we're in such a rush? She pulled Wei Ziqi to ask as she saw the four of them who were ready and waiting for her. Wei Ziqi looked helplessly at Ouyang Fei and said, I initially thought that in light of his injury, we would let him rest for 2 days to tend to his wounds. However, he's the one who insisted, so we couldn't say much. Have you packed your things? I have everything I need on me. Sima Yu waved her interspatial ring as she gleefully said, Then let's move out. Wei Ziqi clapped Sima Yu on the back as he turned to the three of them to say. The pressure surrounding Ouyang Fei's body was as low as it was yesterday. Hearing what Wei Ziqi said, he wordlessly walked out of the courtyard. Let's go, Bei Gong Tang said indifferently as she also walked out. The three of them, Sima Yu, Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi, shrugged their shoulders before following after them. Oh right, Ziqi, you all still haven't told me what our mission is about. After following them to the Spirit Master Guild, Sima Yu finally realized that she had been so busy cultivating and practicing alchemy that she had totally forgotten to ask about anything regarding this mission. Wei Ziqi slapped himself on the forehead before saying in vexation, I can't believe I'd forgotten to explain the mission to you. Our mission this time is to harvest a few pill ingredients. Pill ingredients? Sima Yu was shocked. Couldn't they just buy the needed pill ingredient from the pill store? Why did they have to go and look for it? Actually, looking for this pill ingredient is just the cover-up for our mission, Fatty Chu explained. While under pretense of looking for whatever pill ingredients, these are only found in the Luo mountain range. The main thing the Academy wishes for us is to develop our skills and increase our experiences. When she heard about the Luo mountain range, Sima Yu felt a bit of regret. She had only returned back for a few months, but she had to go back there again. Let's go then. We have to go through a teleportation array to send us to a capital near Luo mountain range. When it was their turn, he paid the fees for the 5 of them and told the servant girl the name of a certain city, Salt City. 5 people. That servant girl said as she received 5 wooden signs and gave it to Wei Ziqi, who handed it out to everyone. Sima Yu looked at the wooden sign in her hand and thought about how this place had no need for her to fill up any form. It could be because the amount people who passed through this place was really too much. So filling up forms was too much trouble. Salt City is a place that Ouyang Fei and I decided on. Wei Ziqi walked as he explained to Sima Yu, we've did our research and found that the north of Luo mountain range has a little less spirit beasts, so we have decided to head there. Salt City happens to be the biggest city in the north. Arriving at the house that the teleportation array was in, Bei Gongtang gave her wooden sign to a person standing at the side before standing inside the teleportation array and looking at Sima Yu and the other 3, thinking of the last time, where she had fallen into a heap like a dog eating shit the last time she used the teleportation array. Sima Yu's eyes flashed when she saw the teleportation array again. After waiting for the 5 of them to enter the array, the teleportation array began to activate and they quickly disappeared from the house. Not long after they left, 2 other groups of people also arrived at the Spirit Master Guild. Looking at the clothes they were wearing, they must also have been students from the Imperial Academy, Salt City. One of the people holding the wooden plates took it out and said one word to the person in charge before standing inside the teleportation array. Boss, you said that you really want to head to the Luo mountain range from Salt City? The second one who arrived at the teleportation array asked. The one who was referred to as boss glanced at the other one wordlessly. He shrugged his shoulders and stood to the side. When evening came, Sima Yu and the others appeared at the Spirit Master Guild at Salt City. Well, go look for an inn first to rest for a night and listen to any news about the current situation at Luo mountain range while we're at it, okay? Wei Ziqi asked. Okay. Fatty Chu was the first to agree. Hanging around the teleportation array for such a long time caused his back to ache. I'm okay with anything, Sima Yu replied. Bei Gongtang and Ouyang Fei also nodded. The sky had gotten dark, so rashly heading to the Luo mountain range would be a considerably dangerous thing, and so the 5 of them left the Spirit Master Guild. After asking around for the position of the closest inn, they went to rent 5 rooms and ate their dinner before retiring to their own rooms to rest. Not long after they entered the inn, another group of people also entered. Sima Yu returned to her room and was sprawled out on the bed. When dinner time came, she saw that the 4 of them had very solemn expressions and knew that they were nervous about entering the mountain tomorrow. However, since she had stayed at Luo mountain range for such a long time, she had nothing to be nervous about. As a result, she simply washed her face and brushed her teeth before surrounding herself in her blanket to sleep. On the morning of the second day, the few of them came downstairs to eat breakfast together. I have already asked about Luo mountain range's current situation from the innkeepers last night, Wei Ziqi said as he ate his breakfast. The Luo mountain range is divided into the outer area, the middle area, and the inner area. Sima Yu already knew everything that Wei Ziqi was talking about. However, seeing that he was saying it with such detail, she could tell that he really had the ability to source for information. As long as we don't go to the middle or inner areas, we won't be met with too much danger, Wei Ziqi concluded. However, if the pill ingredient that we need to gather isn't in the outer areas, then we have no choice but to enter the middle area to look for it, Fatty Chu said. The middle area is too dangerous. If it is possible to avoid it, then we really should do our best not to go, Wei Ziqi said. Let's go. This is my first time entering Luo mountain range. I can't help but to really look forward to see what it's like. Chapter 71. A group of people left the city gate and headed directly to enter Luo mountain range. On the way there, they saw that quite a few people also happened to go in the same direction as them. How come there are so many people heading there? Fatty Chu could not help but ask as he watched the people come and go. Some of these people are like us and have come to train, but most of them are mercenaries from various places. Sima Yu had seen some mercenaries before and recognized their clothes. Mercenaries come to these kind of places? Fatty Chu observed that these people really looked like fiends who lived their lives on top of blades and weapons. Yes, a few mercenaries will accept a few kinds of missions, for example, the collection of pill ingredients or the magic crystal found in spirit beasts or other ingredients that can only be found on the mountain, Wei Ziqi explained. So you're saying that they have also come to enter the mountain. I initially thought that the Pu Luo mountain range would be so dangerous that nobody would dare to enter. Fatty Chu exclaimed. This is really too different from what you imagined, right? Sima Yu clapped Fatty Chu on the back. Growing up in the capital city together, if she had not remained here for a period of time, she would have been as clueless as Fatty Chu. The group of them had been walking for almost half a day, but when they finally reached Pu Luo mountain range, Fatty Chu complained that he could not walk any further. Sima Yu examined those around her. Aside from herself, she saw that Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi were panting for breath. Ouyang Fei and Bei Gong Tang also appeared exhausted. She looked around her and said, "It's getting dark. Why don't we find a place to camp and rest for a night? We'll enter the mountain tomorrow." Fatty Chu planted his foot on the ground the moment he heard what Sima Yu had said. He saw how relaxed Sima Yu was and said, "Yu, we're all dead tired, but how come you don't look tired at all? I constantly train my body, so this kind of physical exertion doesn't really affect me." Sima Yu shrugged as she said, "You all should rest here. They'll go check out whether there's any wide plot of land." When she finished talking, she turned to leave and left the four of them behind to rest. After a period of time, Sima Yu walked in a circle and returned, seeing that Fatty Chu and the others had rested sufficiently. She said, "I was just at a place that appeared more suitable for us to set up camp. Shall we head there?" Okay, Sima Yu brought the others with her to the place that she was at earlier, but she didn't expect that others had already set up their camp there first. Those who had camped there were a group of mercenaries. Seeing that Sima Yu and the others had come over, a 20 to 30-year-old youth smiled at them. "You guys also set your sights on this place? This place is quite big. We've gathered in this area. If you all don't mind, you can set up camp in that other area." Sima Yu looked at the others to ask what they thought about it. "Let's just put up with it," Ouyang Fei said. "In any case, it's just one night." Bei Gong Tang didn't say anything. She just took out her tent and prepared to pitch it. "Ouyang Fei is right. It's just one night. Let's just put up with it," Wei Ziqi said. Since everyone agreed, Sima Yu and Fatty Chu also took out their own tents and set it up according to the innkeeper's instructions. After everything had been set up properly, she took out a large bed from her interspatial ring and put it in the middle of her tent. "Wow, you even brought such a huge bed out with you?" When Fatty Chu had finished setting up his own things, he saw her large bed and was shocked. Sima Yu had been shocked by Fatty Chu's reaction and glared at him, saying, "What's there to be surprised about? Didn't you guys do it too?" Fatty Chu pursed his lips, saying, "Where would we find the space to put such a huge bed?" Huh? Sima Yu didn't understand. Could it be that their interspatial ring was very small? Our interspatial ring is about the size of a house. If put a bed that was as huge as we wouldn't need to bring anything else. Fatty Chu looked begrudgingly at Sima Yu. How great it was to be a young master of the general's family. His interspatial ring must definitely be bigger than his own by a few times. Aren't interspatial rings the same size? Sima Yu asked. Fatty Chu rolled his eyes at Sima Yu, saying, "How can interspatial rings be the same size? Normal interspatial rings only 1 to 2 cubic meters. A ring like mine that is around the size of a house is already considered to be really good." Listening to what Fatty Chu had said, Sima Yu touched the interspatial ring in her hand. This was something that Sima Lai had given her once she was able to cultivate. He told her that it was something her father had left behind for her, so she had always used it. Seeing that it was around the size of a luxurious villa, she did not dare to think about what rank her ring was that her father had left behind. "All right, stop complaining like an old woman," Sima Yu said. "If there's an opportunity, he'll give you a bigger one, okay? Let's go take a look at how Ouyang and the rest are doing." When they went out, Wei Ziqi, Bei Gongtag, and Ouyang Fei were already sitting down in the middle of camp talking to each other. The place that they had chosen was surrounded by tall trees with leaves that were lush and vast on the tops, the leaves. At the bottom were fewer and appeared sparse. Those few mercenaries had also finished setting up their camp and sat in twos and threes, eating dinner together. You're done setting up? Wei Ziqi waved at Sima Yu. Yup, Sima Yu sized up those mercenaries. The youth that had spoken to Sima Yu earlier felt her gaze and raised his head to smile at her. After that, he turned around to talk to his own teammate. Sima Yu and others were chatting when that youth stood up to come over. He cupped his hands in greeting, saying, "I am Qing Wei from the Green Ridge Mercenaries. Is it your first time coming to Puluo Mountain Range?" "It is. Does Master Qing need anything?" Wei Ziqi replied, "Looks like I guessed correctly." Qing Wei smiled as he said, "I just saw that you all had set up camp for so long but had yet to begin eating dinner and wanted to warn you that because there are many trees here, the sky darkens relatively earlier. You can consider eating your dinner a bit earlier in order to avoid the pitch-black darkness. Many thanks for Master Qing's reminder." Wei Ziqi smiled as he said, "You're welcome. As mercenaries, we don't have much experience with formalities, and if you all do not reject it, you can call me Big Brother Qing." Master Qing sounds odd and not too used to hearing that. Qing Wei scratched the back of his head and said, "Hee, Big Brother Qing, if Big Brother Qing has time, why don't you sit with us and chat?" Wei Ziqi took out a seat from his interspatial ring as he said. Qing Wei recognized immediately with a glance that Wei Ziqi's interspatial ring was not a simple thing. It was definitely not something that just anyone could use. Since he had already taken a chair out, he smiled and replied, "Okay then, Big Brother Qing, do you come to Puluo Mountain Range often?" Wei Ziqi asked. "Yeah, Puluo Mountain Range can be said to be a frequent hangout of us mercenaries," Master Qing replied. "So you all will definitely have a good grasp of this place? Could you tell us a bit about the circumstances about this place?" Wei Ziqi smiled as he asked. Sima Yu looked at Wei Ziqi. This guy had a bright countenance, his smile was warm and he really knew how to talk. He gave people a kind of gentle and cultured feeling, causing people to want to get close to him without even knowing it. This kind of desire for closeness was different from the closeness that came from the spirit pearl. This was attributed to his personal charm. Chapter 72. Qing Wei nodded his head, saying, "I can. This Puluo mountain range has some areas that are relatively more dangerous than others. I'll tell you what they are so you can avoid having to enter those places. You all can continue talking. I'll go and prepare food." Sima Yu stood up and said, "Qing Wei was right. The day did get darker relatively earlier, so they had to eat their dinner earlier. Everyone knew that his taste was more refined as long as he had time. He wouldn't eat rations. As a result, everyone felt blessed that they followed Sima Yu. She came to a large open space and took out everything she needed to cook. She had all kinds of pots, pans, and ladles, causing the mercenaries from the Green Ridge mercenary group to stare blankly. TSK, looks like you're someone from one of the large clans. You even brought these kind of things with you." A mercenary looked at Sima Yu's cooking equipment and lamented, "Of course, you just have to take a look at what these guys are wearing to know that they're definitely not average people. This interspatial ring is really huge." "Enough, don't be jealous, let's drink." Sima Yu did not care about the admiration that she had received, taking a few ingredients from her spirit pearl, focusing on her own task of cooking dinner. Qing Wei had also been shocked at what Sima Yu did. This was the first time that he's seen someone actually bring cooking utensils with him. "Big Brother Qing, don't be surprised. His palate is a bit more refined and doesn't like to eat rations," Wei Ziqi explained. "Just now you mentioned something about how there have been more people coming to Puluo Mountain Range." Qing Wei moved his gaze away from watching Sima Yu's cooking equipment and nodded his head, saying, "That's right, this is something I have noticed. We, from the Green Ridge mercenaries, can be seen as being deployed often in Yanqing. We often go in and out of Puluo Mountain Range, so we'll be able to detect even the smallest difference. Although there has always been quite a large number of people coming to this Puluo Mountain Range within this half a month, the number of people inside has increased by quite a lot. Further, most of them are from the large clans." "Oh? Why would there suddenly be such an increase in the number of people?" Fatty Chu was curious and asked. "In the beginning, we didn't know, but after a while we accidentally overheard a bunch of people say that it appeared that some treasured object had appeared or whatever strange pill ingredient matured. We're not too clear on what that item actually is, Qing Wuya shrugged and said, because it doesn't really have much to do with us, so we didn't pay too much attention to it. Does Big Brother Qing not have any interest towards this thing? Fatty Chu asked. It has nothing to do with whether or not I am interested in it, but the fact that the item would either be found in the inner area or at least near the inner area. How would we dare to enter that place? So we just listen to hearsay, Qing Wuya explained. Brother Wei, you all better not be captivated by that treasured object. Although treasures are great, one's life is the most important that you can't do without. Hee, we understand that logic. Wei Ziqi smiled. The inner area, this was a place that saint-ranked beasts lived in. Although the strength of the few of them could compare to others who were the same age, when compared to other, they weren't any kind of experts. They had no guts to go and pick a fight with those saint-ranked beasts. Sima Yuyu was listening to the information that Qing Wuyu was giving them while she fried her vegetables. Hearing them talk about treasured items, her movements hesitated for a while. Treasures? Those were her favorite. If she had the chance, she would go alone to check it out. She quickly made a table full of food, and the smell wafted through the forest, attracting the attention of quite a few people. Brother Sima's food smells really great. Qing Wuya smelled the fragrance and could not help but praise it. Haha, in order to thank Big Brother Qing to telling us all about the Pu Luo mountain range. Since everyone has been chatting so happily, why don't we drink together? Wei Ziqi said, this wouldn't be too good, right? Qing Wuyu was a bit embarrassed. I've cooked a bit too much food. Big Brother Qing, you should eat with us. Sima Yuyu smiled and invited. This Qing Wuya's character was not bad. The things that he had told them earlier were very useful to them. Inviting him to eat and drink with them was nothing much. Let's go, Big Brother Qing. Yuyu's dishes are really delicious. If you wanted to eat these anywhere else, you wouldn't be able to. Come, let's drink a few rounds. Wei Ziqi said, since you've all said it that way, then I won't hold back and will impose. Qing Wuya smiled as he cupped his hands in thanks. He had quite a good impression of Wei Ziqi and the others, so although he could tell that their identities were not ordinary, they didn't have the usual arrogance that accompanied those of large family clans. The dishes that Sima Yuyu had made were naturally eaten well by the others, and they drank well too. After eating, Qing Wuya even praised that this was the best meal he had ever eaten in his life. After eating dinner, the sky was more or less pitch dark. Qing Wuya also returned to his own area with his military teammates. Sima Yuyu and Bei Gongtang cleaned up together, bringing it to a brook nearby to wash it clean. We're going to enter the mountain range tomorrow, so everyone should rest early. I'll keep watch tonight. Ouyang Fei waited for them to come back before saying, no need, you can go to sleep, just let Little Roar take care of the night watch. Sima Yuyu looked over at Little Roar, who was hugging a chicken drumstick, eating it right down to the bone. Ouyang Fei glanced at Little Roar and could tell that it was powerful. He also had no desire to fight over keeping watch, so he nodded his head to everyone and returned to his tent. Good night, everyone. Wei Ziqi returned after saying good night. Sima Yuyu returned to her own tent and crossed both legs on the bed. Little Roar hugged the chicken drumstick and flew in. Little Roar, keep watch tonight, no problem. You can rest assured. Little Roar bit a mouthful of drumstick while saying. Sima Yuyu nodded. However, she did not fall asleep and she only closed her eyes. She injected all of her spiritual qi into her sea of consciousness. There, the Imperial Beast art and the secrets of soul refinement quietly floated into the air. Her mental energy became reduced to a little person and flew in front of the Imperial Beast art, stretching out a hand to pick it up. The Imperial Beast art was not long-winded. The important parts talked about how to tame spirit beasts and even had a few different methods of forming contracts. Looking at what it wrote, Sima Yuyu just realized that there were different methods of forming contracts and each had different results. Contracts were generally divided into life contract, spirit contract, and master-servant contract. Life contract, as the name implied, was interdependent on the life and death of both parties. If one side died, the other party would also follow him in death. This was the most common method of contracts. The contract between Sima Yuyu and that nameless egg was a life contract. Spirit contract was a kind of contract that formed a link between the spirits of two parties. With this contract, if one side died, as long as the spirit was still around, the spirit beast would also not die. This was the contract she had with Little Roar. Master-servant contract was that the person was the master while the spirit beast was the servant. For this kind of contract, even if the spirit beast died, the master would not die. At most, he would lose a bit of strength. This kind of contract was the kind of contract that the spirit beasts hated the most. Some life contracts and spirit contracts could only contract one beast, so at that time, when that egg had felt the spirit contract between Sima Yu and Little Roar much earlier, it settled for the next best thing, which was the life contract. People of this age only knew about life contracts and master-servant contracts. It was rare for people to know about spirit contracts. Apart from that, contracts were also very much related to a person's mental power, the stronger one's mental power. The more contracts they would be able to form with spirit beasts. Most spirit masters could only contract one spirit beast, and only those who were stronger were able to contract a second. People like Sima Yu who were able to contract 3 of them. If we were talking about her strength, she was the most powerful of the most powerful. Chapter 73. After she finished reading Imperial Beast Art, she realized that the methods were actually not difficult. She didn't know how they could have possibly gotten lost over time. The book ended with one sentence, that the rank of beasts that could be tamed were dependent on her mental power. The higher the rank of the spirit beast, the stronger one's mental power would have to be. This was a point similar to alchemy. Sigh, looks like I have to increase my mental strength first. Sima Yu sighed initially. She thought that cultivating spiritual chi was the most important. Who would have thought that the art of beast taming and cultivating spiritual chi were just as important as each other? She put down the imperial art of beast taming and came in front of the secrets of soul cultivation and took down the book. The shining light that had suffused the book dissipated. Letting her see the entirety of the book, she gently flipped open to the first page. The first sentence on the front gave her heart a huge shock. The highest limit of soul cultivation allows a soul to remain even without a body. When Sima Yu read this sentence, she thought of that transparent ethereal spirit, so he practiced this art, allowing his spirit to remain in this world. Looks like this soul cultivation is of standard. She continued reading and it wrote about some ranks of soul cultivation. It started out with reveal, followed by manifestation, then refining emptiness, and finally transcendence. Furthermore, the degree of soul cultivation that would be demonstrated was dependent on one's mental powers. Reveal was a range that any mental power would be able to reach and would allow one's perception to reach 1 kilometer. Manifestation allowed one's mental power to condense concretely outside of the body. Refining emptiness allowed one's mental power to condense a second type of form. Transcendence allowed one's soul to remain independently. Every single degree was separated from the other by a huge chasm. Crossing over each rank would reap huge rewards. After the section of ranks, they had methods of cultivating one's soul. Sima Yu read it for a bit and initially thought it was relatively easy. Only a few chants were used to cultivate the soul. After that were some methods of increasing one's mental power. Looks like this soul cultivation and mental power are closely related, and I can't lack a bit of either. No wonder Mo Shah said that my mental powers would increase after practicing soul cultivation. After complaining for a while, she left her sea of consciousness and began to practice while following the steps listed on that book. Time flew while she was cultivating, and by the time Sima Yu had been awoken from her meditation, the sky was already bright. She never thought that she would unknowingly cultivate the entire night and was completely energized. She didn't have the lethargy that came with a sleepless night at all. Looks like I'll be practicing this at night whenever I have nothing to do. She got down from the bed and tidied her clothes before placing the things in her tent into her inter-spatial ring along with the tent. Brother Sima, you're awake as well. Qing Wu Ya saw that Sima Yu was keeping his things and smiled as he waved. Good morning, big brother Qing. Sima Yu smiled as she nodded to him. After that, she went to the small lake to wash up, coming back to take her cooking utensils to cook breakfast. As she was cooking breakfast, Bei Gong Tang and the rest also woke up successively, packing their own things before waiting to eat. Brother Wei, we will be entering the mountain as well. You definitely have to remember the things that I told you all yesterday. Definitely don't go to those dangerous places. Qing Wu Ya told Wei Ziqi after his own team had finished packing their stuff. Big brother Qing will be entering the mountain so early? Wei Ziqi said when he saw that the team of mercenaries were already ready and waiting. Yep. The mission this time is relatively more difficult and time is more tight, so we have to leave a bit earlier. Qing Wu Ya replied. I see. Then I hope Big Brother Qing will be able to finish the mission earlier. Wei Ziqi said. Thanks, Brother Wei. Hope we meet again. Hope we meet again. Qing Wu Ya cupped his hands towards Sima Yu and the rest before returning to his own team saying, Let's go. Fatty Chu watched as Qing Wu Ya and his team left, saying, These mercenaries from Green Ridge are really not bad. Not bad, much better than those we've met before. Let's eat. Sima Yu placed the food on the table and beckoned to everyone, being different from the Green Ridge mercenaries. They were not in a rush, so Sima Yu and the gang ate their breakfast. Before heading into the mountains, this time, they had to harvest quite a few different types of pill ingredients, and each person had to also bring back one spirit beast body. Their mission was already quite difficult. The mission of searching for pill ingredients was much easier for Sima Yu because she was well acquainted with pill ingredients and knew what kind of environment which pill ingredient would be growing in. As a result, the scope of her search was greatly reduced. After one day, they found their first pill ingredient. I never thought that you would be so familiar with pill ingredients. Wei Ziaiqi looked at the pill ingredient that was lying in the basket and sighed. That's right, how come we never knew you were so familiar with pill ingredients? Fatty Chu said, it's not like you all are with me 24 hours a day. How would you know what I do or don't know? Sima Yu glanced at Fatty Chu, directly avoiding answering their question. Now that we've found Earth's core grass, we still have to look for fire flame grass and for other types of pill ingredients, Ouyang Fei said. I know about fire flame grass. It grows facing the sun, however. There will be powerful spirit beasts living near the fire flame grass. Yep. I propose leaving the search for fire flame grass to the end. We should look for the other types of pill ingredients first, Wei Ziqi suggested. Agreed. Sima Yu nodded. The spirit beasts on the periphery of the Puluo mountain range are not high in rank. If we meet them, we will be able to practice a bit of combat. Okay. Then let's continue to look, Wei Ziqi said. Yup. Not long after they left the valley, another group of people arrived at the place they were at. Boss, that group of people don't follow any pattern when they walk. We have no way of encountering them. One of them said, even if there's no way, we have to think of a way. The black-clothed man said, she caused Nalan Lan to be expelled from school, so we definitely have to avenge this on her behalf, boss. We can't directly do something to her, so how should we go about it? Yet another person asked. The black-clothed man thought about it for a while, saying, didn't they say that they wanted to look for spirit beasts to practice some combat? We can help them look for partners to practice with. If they are killed by the spirit beasts on Puluo mountain range, the school cannot place their deaths on our heads. But boss, I heard that the ranks of these few people are quite high. Aside from Sima Yu, that waste, the others are not weaker than us. How can we do that would cause them to buy those spirit beasts? Of course I have an idea for that. Do you guys know where we can find spirit beasts and flock together? The black-clothed man said, boss, I know. I heard a mercenary mention it just now. That's good. Let's go. We will help them look for spirit beasts to practice combat. Sima Yu and her 5-man team searched the mountain for an entire day, but they had no harvests at all. However, while searching, they had encountered a spirit beast of the 6th rank. They managed to settle it very quickly by working together, letting Sima Yu keep it. As for why she was the one to keep it, the reason was because her interspatial ring was the largest. Just as they were resting, Sima Yu suddenly felt a sense of danger and subconsciously stood up. Yu, what's wrong? Fatty Chu asked when he saw Sima Yu panic. I hear something, Sima Yu said. The others had yet to say anything when they heard the chaotic sound of footsteps, following which, a pack of fire wolves appeared in front of them, running towards them with terrifying speed. So many spirit beasts. Fatty Chu could not help but gulp when he saw so many firewolves. Chapter 74. It was not only Fatty Chu but also Bei Gongtang and the gang who had been scared witless by the pack of beasts that were charging towards them. Help. As the pack of beasts drew nearer, Sima Yu and gang noticed a person running right at the front of the pack. The call of the wolf pack was filled with a ferocity that caused the person to break out into a cold sweat. However, seeing Sima Yu and the gang in front of him, he grit his teeth and charged straight at them. When Sima Yu saw that person run towards their direction, she immediately reacted and gave a yell. As she started running, she pulled Bei Gongtang, who was standing beside her, and they ran towards the back. Hearing her yell, Wei Ziqi and the rest came back to their senses and broke into a run without even being able to pack their things. Help the friend in front, help me, that person called out when he saw that Sima Yu and the rest were running. Damn, save yourself. Sima Yu scolded, pulling Bei Gongtang as they increased their pace. However, the strength in the legs of these 5 people were limited. How were they to outrun the firewolves? Seeing the spirit beasts draw closer along with that black-clothed man, Fatty Chu complained, damn it, how can this guy run so fast? The one was had been chased by those fire wolves caught up very quickly. Seeing the tiny wolf cub in his hands, Sima Yu finally understood why this pack of wolves had chased them all over the mountain. You idiot, what are you holding the wolf cub for? Quickly give it back. It appeared as if the person only regained his senses when Sima Yu said it. As he lowered his head to look at the tiny wolf cub in his embrace, he threw the wolf cub to Fatty Chu, who was beside him, before running towards another direction. Damn it. Is this jerk trying to kill someone? Fatty Chu subconsciously caught the wolf cub, but by the time he understood what was happening, that person had already run off without a trace. Sima Yu watched as that person ran so quickly that he completely disappeared from sight, and her eyes flashed with suspicion. Fatty Chu, what are you still hugging that wolf cub for? Quickly throw it away. Wei Ziqi yelled. Fatty Chu hurriedly threw the wolf cub. However, except for one or two who had went over to where the cub was, the rest of the pack still chased them relentlessly. I can't run anymore. Looks like I can only battle it out with them. Ouyang Fei looked at the wolf pack that was still chasing them relentlessly and took out his weapons, turning to face the wolf pack, ready to kill. The rest of them also understood that this wolf pack had already marked them. No matter how far they ran, they would not let them off. They had also run for such a long time, their physical stamina would not last. If they waited until it was all depleted, the wolf pack would be able to kill them all easily. Sima Yu was not too worried about the wolf pack behind them. Either one of Little Roar or Yaguang's appearance would be able to scare them off. However, she had no plans to do so. Let's just do it. Wei Ziqi also stopped running as he called out his own contracted spirit beast and was ready to fight the fire wolves. This lord won't run anyway, damn it. Fatty Qiu also called out his own spirit beast and axe, hurling it at the fire wolves. Bei Gongtang did not call out her own spirit beast. She only stopped running and only threw the condensed ball of spiritual qi in her hands towards the fire wolves. Sima Yu surveyed the situation for a bit. Ouyang Fei's beast was just a 9th-ranked clouded leopard. It appeared to be breaking into the ranks of a saint-ranked spirit beast. Fatty Chu's beast was just a 7th-ranked charm fox. That fox's build was much smaller than the fire wolves, but it was not weaker in combat ability at all. The rank of Wei Ziqi's spirit beast was not as high as Ouyang Fei's. However, it was a very rare fire lizard with just one sweep of its tail. An entire bunch of fire wolves were sent flying. Sima Yu took out her dagger, Ling Long, and leapt in front of a fire wolf. While it was pouncing over, she quickly stabbed the dagger straight into the space in between its eyebrows. She had already pulled the dagger out before it had any chance to react. Ouyang Fei and the others never expected that Sima Yu would be able to kill a wolf so quickly and stared in shock. The space between the eyebrows and 3 inches below their neck is the flame wolf's most vulnerable spot. It's the most efficient to target those 2 areas. How did you know? Although it was not the best time for it, Fatty Chu still asked. It was mentioned before during class, Sima Yu said. It was at this point that everyone realized they had the vague impression that the teacher had talked about this before when he was explaining about the spirit beasts in Pu Luo mountain range. However, everyone did not pay attention. If it wasn't for Sima Yu pointing it out, they would never have remembered that they had a class on it. You have to be quick or else you will be hurt by the pack of wolves, Ouyang Fei cautioned. Ouyang Fei and Bei Gongtang have quite a bit of battle experience. The 3 of us will take charge of attacking those closest to us, Ziqi and Fatty Chu. You two will have to focus on using spiritual qi to attack. Sima Yu said, we function as a team now. If we want to live through this, we have to work together to the best of our ability. Everyone looked at the wolf pack encircling them and nodded, showing their acceptance of what she said. Ziqi, Fatty Chu, we will be outside and you two will be in the center. Pump out spiritual qi as fast as you can. If any of us are taken down, it is possible that you two will be in danger. Ouyang Fei warned. You all can relax, Fatty Chu assured. Sima Yu glanced at Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi and said very earnestly, in the past, I rarely showed my back to others because it was a very dangerous thing. Today, the 3 of us entrust our backs to you. You guys have to defend it well. When Wei Ziqi and the other 4 heard what Sima Yu said, their hearts could now help but to be shaken. He was right. In the past, they kept to themselves even if they were in their own families. They never trusted anyone to the point that they could present their backs to them. However, today, they were presenting their backs to others because they had no choice, because they trusted each other. You all can rest assured. We are a team and we will always be companions that you can trust your backs to. Wei Ziqi responded with his heartfelt words, "That's right, we will always be companions you can trust your backs to." Fatty Chu confirmed. Sima Yu smiled lightly, saying, "That's good. Let's begin the battle." Bei Gongtang and Ouyang Fei exchanged glances with large amounts of battle intent apparent in their gazes as well as feelings that birthed only out of teammates who suffered together. Charge. Ouyang Fei was still the first one to charge right in front of the wolf pack, with Sima Yu and Bei Gongtang close behind him. The three of them, with three spirit beasts, unknowingly formed a circle with Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi wrapped in the center, giving them enough time to condense their spiritual qi. As Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi condensed their balls of spiritual qi, they would throw it towards the direction of whoever was in the most danger or whoever was the most taxed. There were some times where they threw the balls of spiritual qi into the center of the wolf pack, causing them to howl with pain after half an hour because there were too many injuries and deaths. The leader of the fire wolves had no choice but to resignedly take its underlings and run away with their tails between their legs. Only when the wolf pack left did everyone collapse to the ground with cuts of various sizes still dripping blood. The fight just now had depleted their energy after Fatty Chu and Wei Ziqi had depleted all their spiritual qi. They also chose to fight directly with the wolf pack. Sima Yu took out a medicine bottle and poured out a pill and ate it. After that, she passed the jade bottle to Bei Gongtang, who poured out 4 pills and handed it out to everyone. "We have to leave this place now. The activity just now and the smell of blood will definitely attract other spirit beasts." Looking at how everyone was utterly exhausted, Sima Yu kept the carcasses of all the fire wolves into her interspatial ring. Chapter 75. It was precisely when Sima Yu and the rest were fighting with the fire wolf pack that the man who had led the fire wolf pack to them crossed over the mountain top with haste. He ran towards another mountain top, quickly linking up with his other teammates. "Huangxi, how is it?" The people who were waiting there asked when they saw their own teammate come back. "By the time I ran off, Sima Yu and the others had already been encircled by the pack of fire wolves." Huangxi tore off a piece of talisman that was pasted on his body and handed it over to the black-clothed man, saying, "Boss, what is this thing?" After pasting it on, my speed increased by many times as if this pair of legs weren't mine. "You don't have to ask what it is." The black-clothed man kept the talisman, saying that fire wolf pack really surrounded them completely. "Really, boss?" Huangxi guaranteed it was even 30 to 40 fire wolves. Even if that group of them wasn't weak, they wouldn't be able to match up to that many fire wolves. "That would be good if it really happened," that black-clothed man said. "Sigh, even though they lost their lives, being unable to kill that waste with my own hands really fills me with regret." "Boss, do we need to go and check out how they died?" Huangxi asked. "No need." The black-clothed man shook his head, saying, "If we happen to encounter that wolf pack, we will end up in a lot of trouble. Furthermore, the scent of blood would easily attract other spirit beasts nearby. Since we know that it was impossible for them to have survived, we have no need to place ourselves in danger." "Boss is right. We have also come here to fulfill a mission. Since we've settled Sima Yu, we should go and fulfill our own mission." "Let's go." The black-clothed man led his own team towards another mountain top. When he finished speaking, on the other side, Ouyang Fei and the others kept their contracted spirit beasts into their interspatial rings, working together to leave the forest that they had just battled in. After moving for quite a while, they arrived at a riverside. Looking at the empty space beside the river, Sima Yu said, "This place should be far enough from the battleground earlier. We should stay here and wash our wounds, okay?" Wei Ziqi supported Fatty Chu as he sat down on a large rock by the riverbed, and he sat down on the side, although they had already eaten the medicine that Sima Yu had given them. A healing pill of the first rank would take effect slowly, and the effects were not that great either. It was not possible for their wounds to close up after such a short period of time. Ouyang Fei came to the riverside and immediately took off his outer garment and began to wash the wounds. On the upper half of his body, Sima Yu glanced at him and realized his body had actually been marred by a crisscross of scars. Sima Yu took out a basin and went to the side of the river to fill it up with water. She walked over to Fatty Chu and stretched out a hand to strip him of his clothes. Yu, what do you want to do?" Fatty Chu saw that Sima Yu was stripping him and unconsciously shrieked as he used both hands to cover his chest. Sima Yu's face was completely black. What did this guy react so exaggeratedly for? If you feel that it's not painful for you to continue pulling on your wounds, I don't mind if you continue to hug yourself like that." As she said this, she glanced over at the wounds on Fatty Chu's body. It was only after he heard what Sima Yu said that he recalled the wounds on his body. His actions just now caused his wounds to hurt even more, causing him to cry out in pain because he couldn't take it any longer. Sima Yu pulled down his hands and used a pair of scissors to shred the clothed on his body, revealing the wounds on his shoulder and back. Of course, that pair of scissors was something that Ling Long had changed into extremely reluctantly. She really could not understand. Why was her master so insistent on her changing into a weird and crazy object that didn't have any use? For the sake of convenience, Sima Yu completely cut apart Fatty Chu's clothes before taking out a piece of cotton cloth, wetting it with the water in the basin. After she had completely washed away the bloodstains around his wound, she took out a bottle of powdered medicine and sprinkled it evenly across his wound. She finally used a strip of cloth to wrap him up. Wei Ziqi came back from the riverside after washing the bloodstains off his body. When he said Sima Yu used skilled actions, he teased, "I didn't expect that Yu would be so skilled at wrapping up wounds. I used to injure myself a lot in the past," Sima Yu replied. The past that she spoke of was of the time when she always got injured when she was an assassin. But Fatty Chu and the other understood it as a past where he had always been beaten up by the people by Murong An's side. "You don't worry. If anyone dares to beat you up in the future, this Fatty will be the first one to defend you," Fatty Chu said as he looked at the strip of cloth on his arm. Sima Yu smiled and walked behind him. She sprinkled some medicinal powder on the wound on his back before carefully wrapping it up. "Done." Sima Yu bound it well and said, "This medicinal powder is very useful for treating wounds. When paired with pills, the effects are very good." "Ouyang Fei, you all have many wounds on your body. It'll also help you wrap them up." "I can do it myself." Ouyang Fei was not too used to others working on his own body and took the pill bottle to wrap his own wounds. However, because he had some wounds on his shoulders, he had no choice but to let him help. After Sima Yu had finished helping Wei Ziqi and Bei Gongtang to wrap the wounds on their bodies, Fatty Chu thought of something before staring at Sima Yu strangely. "What's up with you? Why are you looking at me like that?" Sima Yu felt a bit scared under Fatty Chu's gaze. "You? We're all injured, but you're perfectly fine," Fatty Chu said. After he said this, Wei Ziqi, Bei Gongtang, and Ouyang Fei also realized it. They had all sustained injuries, but Sima Yu did not have a single scratch. Cough, cough. This Sima Yu did not know how to answer and pretended to cough twice. "Haha. We were even so worried earlier that bringing you to the mountain would be too dangerous for you. It turned out that you're someone who hides things deeply," Wei Ziqi suddenly said with a big laugh. Sima Yu touched her nose and smiled. "You're very strong," Ouyang Fei said as he looked at Sima Yu. When they were fighting, he had realized that Sima Yu was extremely accurate each time he killed the fire wolves, although he had understood the weak points of those fire wolves. This was something that could only be exploited by his own strength. "I feel that there's something fishy towards what just happened to us," Bei Gongtang said. "You realized it too?" Ouyang Fei looked at Bei Gongtang. It seemed that he was not the only one who thought something was off. "What's fishy about it?" Fatty Chu looked at the few of them with confusion. "Everything about it is fishy," Wei Ziqi said. "Huh? What is?" Sima Yu looked at how baffled Fatty Chu was and said, "Don't you think the appearance of that person was very strange?" "What's so strange about that person?" Fatty Chu asked. Sima Yu looked at him with a contemptuous expression. This guy still didn't understand even though she had explained it like this. "Fatty, that person today, it looks like his strength should more or less be on par with ours. It is even possible that it hasn't reached our level, so why would he come to Puluo mountain range that is filled with so much danger?" "What about his companions?" Wei Ziqi explained patiently. Fatty Chu blinked and said, "Hearing your explanation, it really does seem weird. This is not the only thing weird about it." Sima Yu smiled lightly as her eyes flashed with a cold light.